Hello? My name's Arla, and I wish this was just a nightmare I could wake up from. But it's real. My sister used the money I'd saved for brain surgery to go on a honeymoon. And when I confronted her, my parents didn't defend me. They defended her. They said I was stronger, that I could handle it. But what about the years I worked double shifts? What about the diagnosis I never asked for? That betrayal was just the beginning. Because what I uncovered next, it wasn't just a selfish sister. It was a family conspiracy that nearly destroyed everything. I walked through the front door just past 9 p.m., the air inside my apartment stale and still. My feet throbbed inside my clogs. 14 hours on the trauma floor had worn through every layer of patience I had left. I dropped my keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, peeled off my hoodie, and hung it on the back of the kitchen chair without thinking. The silence was comforting. For 5 minutes, I stood in the middle of my living room, letting the hum of the refrigerator and the ache in my shoulders settle in. Then I remembered the surgery. It was just a month away now. My neurosurgeon had warned me, benign doesn't mean harmless. My tumor wasn't waiting around, and neither could I. I'd been squirreling away every cent for 3 years, turning down vacations, skipping nights out, saying no to everything that wasn't life-saving. I opened the banking app. The moment the screen loaded, I froze. My balance read $148.76. I blinked, refreshed again. Where there should have been $73,000, there was nothing. Not low, not suspicious, gone. I scrolled through the transaction history, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would rupture. 43 transactions in 2 days, all in amounts just low enough to avoid detection, some to airlines, others to travel agencies, one labeled Luxury Getaways LLC. I slammed the phone on the counter and picked it up again. This couldn't be real. I'd been hacked. Had to be. I called the bank, 5 minutes of hold music, then, "Hi, thank you for calling Cascade Bank. This is Alicia speaking. How can I assist you today?" I tried to sound calm. I need to report what I think is a case of fraud. Someone emptied my savings account. There was the sound of clicking keys on the other end. Let me just verify. Looks like these withdrawals were made from a device already on file. A Samsung tablet linked to your secondary user. My mouth dried out. Secondary user? Yes, ma'am. The joint holder from the backup access account. Says here it was established 2010. Do you want me to read the name? My stomach turned. No, I said quietly. I know who it is. The backup account. The one my mother insisted I keep open, just in case, when I left for college. I never closed it. Forgot it even existed. She never did. I ended the call before I said something I couldn't take back. And then, because life has a sick sense of humor, a ding sounded. An email from Janelle. Subject line. Thank you, sis. Body, 1 photo. Her and Dorian, wrapped in white towels, lounging beside a turquoise infinity pool. Bora Bora in the background. Another photo, the booking receipt. Premium honeymoon package, $51,200. Paid in full with an account number ending in 9032. My account. Below the pictures, a single line in glittery pink cursive. You always said family comes first. I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't an accident. They used my surgery money for a damn vacation. My ears rang. I tried to breathe, but the air felt too thick. I slid to the floor. My head hit the cabinet on the way down, but I didn't care. I thought about every night I skipped eating out, every shift I picked up on holidays, every time I told myself, just a little longer, Arla, just keep saving. And they used it to sip mimosas on a beach. Not for an emergency, not for survival, for sand and selfies and sunsets. I opened her Instagram out of pure masochism. The caption under their latest post read, Honeymoon bliss #blessed #thank you sis. Blessed? No, 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 no. I opened every banking app I had, every account, every card, every login. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Everything I thought was secure. Shared access, linked backups, old connections I should have severed years ago. And now they'd taken everything. My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Mom. Hope your shift went okay. Love you. I stared at it like it came from a stranger. Love? That's what she called this? I'd always believed in boundaries. Believed that just because people are family doesn't mean they're entitled to your peace. But I bent anyway. I always bent. Because when it came to them, my mom, my sister, I thought I could trust. I thought I had time. I was wrong. I tapped open my password manager. If there was anything left they hadn't drained, I was going to find it. But instead of clarity, what I found next almost made me throw up. Because there it was, my mom's name, listed as the co-owner on my savings account, and the last login coming from Janelle's zip code. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on the floor of my apartment, still in my scrubs, watching the same set of transactions loop on my screen, over and over like some kind of sick joke. $73,000, my future, poured into the sand. By sunrise, I was numb, but not confused anymore. No, I knew exactly who had done this, and I wasn't going to ask nicely. The drive to Forest Heights was quiet, not peaceful, quiet, like the air right before a tornado hits. The streets were wet from last night's rain, and every turn I made felt mechanical, rehearsed. I knew the route like the back of my hand. Same neighborhood where I grew up, same two-story house with the chipped white trim. But this time, I wasn't coming as a daughter. I pulled into the driveway just after 7. My dad's truck was parked out front. Curtains in the living room were already drawn open. Mom was up, probably making her morning smoothie with chia seeds and too much kale. Like nothing ever happened. I didn't knock. I walked straight up and rang the bell with the kind of force that made the door rattle. Footsteps approached. "Arla?" Mom opened the door, robe tied tight, hair curled just so. "Didn't expect to see you this early." I didn't answer. I stepped inside. She followed me into the kitchen. "Is everything all right?" I placed my phone on the counter and tapped the screen. My account, the withdrawals, her name, Janelle's zip code. "Why is your name on my account?" My voice was steady, flat. She blinked. I thought you knew." "That's your answer?" I picked up the phone and held it closer. "You helped yourself to my life savings and thought I knew?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My dad walked in then, scratching the back of his neck like he'd just rolled out of bed. "What's going on?" "Your wife and your daughter took my surgery money," I said. "That's what's going on." He looked at my mother. She looked away. "We just helped Janelle out a little," Mom said finally. "She needed a new beginning. You always said family comes first. I needed brain surgery." "You'll get the money back," Dad added, like that was supposed to be comforting. "You're smart, Arla. Responsible. You always bounce back." "Bounce back?" My throat tightened, but I wouldn't let myself break. Not here, not in this kitchen. I turned to Mom. "So you used my name to keep access to my accounts for years? Set up devices under my name?" She didn't deny it. "It was never malicious, just in case. In case you ever wanted to ruin me?" Just then, Janelle descended the stairs, barefoot and glowing like she hadn't just burned our entire family to the ground. "Arla," she said softly, voice catching, "I told them not to take it. I swear. I didn't want any of this. They just wanted to help me." "Help?" I stepped toward her. "You booked flights, paid for hotels, and posted a whole photo dump with the caption, 'Thank you, sis.' That's not helpless. That's calculated." "I didn't think you'd miss it," she mumbled. "You never spend money on anything." I stared at her. "You're unbelievable." Mom stepped between us. "You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I laughed. "No, dramatic would be selling my car, lighting the house on fire, and posting about it on Facebook. This is me calm." Dad muttered, "You never were good at letting things go." I turned to him, dead in the eyes. "You mean letting myself be robbed blind without saying a word? No, I'm not good at that." They looked at me like I was the villain, like I was ungrateful, like I was ruining Christmas in July. "I'm not going to let this slide," I said. "This isn't a little family thing. It's theft. It's betrayal. And it ends here." "You would destroy your own family over a misunderstanding?" Mom's voice rose, suddenly trembling. "It's not a misunderstanding," I snapped. "You knew what you were doing. You just didn't think I'd do anything about it." And that was the truth. They'd counted on me staying silent. Again. I took one last look at all three of them, Mom with her arms folded tight across her chest, Dad scowling like I'd insulted him, and Janelle with fake tears threatening to spill. For the first time in my life, I didn't see a family. I saw 3 people who had stolen from me, smiled while doing it, and expected me to say thank you. I grabbed my keys from the counter. "We're not done," I said. "Not by a long shot." As I walked out the door, I could hear Mom calling after me, "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." But I didn't turn around, because it was already too big, too late, and that's when I remembered every time they told me, "It's not a big deal." And I swallowed it. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts. Just the low hum of the engine and my fingers gripping the steering wheel until they hurt. Portland's early evening light was fading fast, casting long gray shadows over the wet streets. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, the clouds had thickened again, threatening another downpour. Upstairs, I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and shut it quietly behind me. The same 4 walls, same chipped bookshelf, same pale blue couch I crashed on during overnight shifts. Except nothing felt safe now. I sank onto the couch, not bothering to take off my shoes. My phone was still clutched in my hand. I opened the banking app again, not because I expected anything new, but because I couldn't help looking, like poking at a bruise. Then I opened my journal. It had been months since I wrote anything in it, but the most recent entry leapt out at me. Mom asked again about the savings, said it would be smart to keep her listed. Just in case. I don't feel great about it, but saying no always causes a scene. That entry was from almost 2 years ago. I flipped back further and found even earlier notes. Little things I had brushed off. Dad asked for my online login to help with taxes. Felt off. Janelle wants to borrow my old laptop again. It's synced to my accounts. The signs had always been there. I just kept ignoring them. Corwin had warned me once during a lunch break. "Joint accounts are not forever, Arla. You work too hard to leave things vulnerable." I remember laughing it off. It's my family. What would they even do? And Tawny, my best friend since med school, had rolled her eyes when I told her I let my mom keep my passwords for emergencies. "Girl, they're not backup. They're a back door." I'd smiled, waved it off. They were just being cynical, right? But now, staring at the reality, I realized I'd been trained for this, not in medical school, in my own home. Gaslit to believe that love meant silence, that being the good daughter meant bending until I broke. My hands trembled as I set the journal down. I opened Facebook. I knew I shouldn't. I wasn't even sure why I did. But curiosity always carries a cost. There it was, Janelle's latest post. Some people just hate to see others happy. A selfie of her in sunglasses, sipping something pink with Dorian in the background, grinning like a frat boy. I scrolled to the comments. "Aunt Louisa, your sister's always been selfish. She never supported you the way you supported her." Uncle Ray, "Didn't she get that fancy hospital job? Let her pay for it. You deserve joy, sweetheart." And the worst? After all her doctor money, she can't spare a little for her sister's happiness? Each comment hit like a slap. No one asked about the truth. No one cared to. I saw a familiar name in the comments, someone from my undergrad days. Wasn't Arla always a little intense? She never knew how to let loose. I closed the app, not out of hurt, but out of clarity. I wasn't crying anymore. I walked to my desk, turned on the lamp, and opened my laptop. I started compiling everything. Screenshots, bank records, device login histories, timestamps, emails, every breadcrumb they thought I'd ignore. This wasn't revenge. This was documentation. A digital crime scene. And then I drafted the email. To corwin.m@financehelp.net. Subject, need your help. It's time, body. I found everything. They've been in my accounts for years. I don't even know where to start. Please call me. I hovered over send for just a second, then clicked. My phone buzzed 2 minutes later. Corwin. They've been stealing. The moment he saw what I sent, he replied in less than 3 words. They've been stealing. 2 days later, I sat in Corwin's office clutching a mug of coffee I hadn't touched. The room smelled like burned toast and eucalyptus. An odd mix, but somehow comforting. Corwin was already at his desk, eyes scanning over a spreadsheet on his monitor, glasses pushed up the bridge of his nose. He turned the screen toward me. This is the timeline I built based on the access logs you gave me. Every transfer, every login, down to the IP addresses. I leaned forward. There it was, in black and white. Ramona's device logged in 12 times in 1 week, then Janelle, then Dorian. They layered it, he said, voice clipped. Janelle made the withdrawals. Ramona authorized them from the old joint account. And Dorian? This bastard applied for a loan under your name. Look. I didn't want to, but I had to. It was a personal loan, $18,000, listed under a fake consulting startup. But the SSN was mine. The address? A P.O. box registered to Dorian's gym. I stared at the screen. My stomach burned. My vision tunneled. I was supposed to be prepping for brain surgery in 3 weeks. Instead, I was watching my life get siphoned by the people I grew up believing would protect it. Corwin exhaled. They didn't just cross a line, Arla. They bulldozed through it. By the time I got to work that afternoon, I felt like I was sleepwalking. I barely registered the hellos, the patients in room 3 and 7 needing blood draws, the chaos of post-lunch hour ER traffic. I told myself I could still function, just keep my head down, clock in, clock out. But at 12:45, as I was microwaving leftover pasta in the staff lounge, Caitlin from cardiology tapped my shoulder. Arla, you might want to check your sister's Facebook. That was never a good sentence to hear. I pulled out my phone and opened the app. Right there at the top of my feed, a smiling photo of Janelle, Mom, and Dad standing in front of my childhood home. The caption read, "Family means everything, even when others try to tear it apart for attention." And I was tagged. There were already 50 comments. You deserve peace, Janelle. Some people will always play victim when they're not center stage. Didn't your sister get a huge insurance payout or something? What's she complaining about? Every lie they told behind my back had bloomed into gospel online. I locked my phone and threw it in my bag. I tried to steady myself before heading back to the nurse's station, but the buzz in my chest wouldn't stop. I could still feel everyone looking. That afternoon, I was called into Dr. Lyle's office. He didn't offer coffee, didn't ask how I was, just folded his hands and said, "We've received anonymous reports questioning your financial integrity. HR is investigating." What? I blinked. What does that mean? Until the matter is reviewed, we're placing you on administrative leave, effective immediately. I stood there, still in my scrubs, blood pressure cuff still clipped to my waistband, as if I'd been yanked out mid-patient. But this isn't... I tried to explain, but he cut me off gently. You're not being fired. Just paused. We'll be in touch. I gathered my things, numb, walked to the parking garage, heart hollowing out more with each step. The car felt like a coffin when I shut the door. I sat in the driver's seat and stared at the steering wheel, waiting for anger, waiting for tears. Nothing came. When I got home, I opened my laptop. Inbox, 84 unread messages. The subject lines told me everything I needed to know. Unbelievable behavior. Shame on you. Why are you doing this to your sister? You always thought you were better than the rest of us. I didn't reply. I archived them all. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop, labeled it in all caps, Family Fraud, Do Not Delete. Inside, I created subfolders, loans, logins, screenshots, email chains, social posts. If they wanted war, they had picked the wrong woman to betray. And I wasn't just planning to stop them anymore. I was going to make them regret every single lie. It was still dark when I woke up, if I even slept. The kind of sleep where your eyes close but your brain keeps running laps. By 6, I was dressed, coffee brewed, and my desk lamp already casting that harsh glow onto my notes. There was a knock at the door. I didn't have to ask who it was. Corwin stepped in with a manila folder tucked under his arm and a look that said, "You're going to want to sit down for this." He dropped the folder onto my table with a soft thud. "Ready?" he asked. I opened the flap. Inside were 5 documents, each stamped, dated, notarized, and each bearing my name. Except, it wasn't my signature. Not really. Close but sloppy, too rushed. One of them was a loan agreement for a home renovation loan Marvin had filed under my credit line. Another, this one made my stomach twist, was from Dorian, listed as a business partner. using my info to open a credit card. $12,000 in furniture charges. They used your financial identity like it was a Costco membership, Corwin muttered, flipping to the last sheet. And they didn't stop at one signature. They forged a pattern. I nodded slowly. It's time. By noon, we were sitting with my attorney, Elise Franco, in her downtown office. She was all sharp edges and silk sleeves, the kind of woman who didn't waste time on polite outrage. Cease and desist, she said, typing rapidly. Citing fraud, identity theft, unauthorized use of signature. We'll name all three, Ramona, Marvin, Dorian. And Janelle? I asked. Elise paused. Legally, her name's not on any of the docs yet, but if she was complicit, I cut her off. She was. We sent the letters by certified mail and email. I reviewed each one 3 times, no trembling hands this time. I wanted them to feel the paper cuts. I wanted the tone to sting. By 4 p.m., the calls started. First was Ramona. I just got your email, she said, voice tight. Arla, you didn't have to go this far. I didn't answer right away. You always make things bigger than they need to be, she continued, her voice shrinking into that familiar guilt-laced pitch. We're family. I inhaled slowly. You're right, we are, which makes what you did even worse. Click. Next, an email from Marvin. Family shouldn't threaten family. I replied instantly. Family shouldn't steal. There was a brief silence that felt louder than anything else. Then my phone lit up again. Janelle. Not a call, she never called. Just a voice message. Arla, I get that you're mad, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. You don't want to burn bridges you can't rebuild. This can still be fixed. She sounded calm, sweet even, fake as a $3 bill. I played the message twice. Not because I needed to hear it again, but because I wanted to remember the tone, the manipulation behind the syrup. My inbox chimed. Corwin again. Subject line. First one cracked. The message was short. The bank has flagged Marvin's documents for internal investigation. More to come. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms. One win. But Elise had warned me. This move may push them to strike back harder. They'll feel cornered. I didn't care. Let them feel it. I clicked on my desktop folder, Family Fraud, Do Not Delete, and added a new audio file. Janelle threat, March 9th. Then I sat back. They had taken everything from me thinking I'd stay quiet. Now I was armed, awake, and finally dangerous. But I wasn't the one who lit the match. 3 days later, I walked into Corwin's office with a flash drive clutched in my hand like it was a loaded weapon. Because in a way, it was. 6 years' worth of financial records, statements, messages, and transaction logs all bundled into cold, indisputable data. Let's burn it all down, I said. Corwin plugged the drive in, the screen filling with folder trees and PDFs. Together, we traced small transactions, $50 here, $100 there, dating back to a hidden joint account my mother had opened with me when I was 19, for emergencies. Apparently, my family believed weekly spa visits and Macy's credit card minimums were emergencies. Every time I'd gotten a raise, a bonus, even a tax refund, it had quietly slipped into that account, then been rerouted toward family needs. I saw rent payments for an apartment Janelle had when she claimed to be couch surfing. I saw Marvin's truck repair covered with a payment from a card listed in my name. And Dorian. Dorian had used my credit to apply for a business loan. Custom outdoor furniture company. A fraud front, most likely. He listed me as a silent investor. I never even got a thank you. That afternoon, I made the call that had been simmering in my gut since all this started. Close every account tied to my name that has shared access. I don't care if they lose water or heat or rent. Let them call customer service like the rest of the world. The bank agent hesitated. Miss Rollins, that will affect several ongoing automatic payments and authorized users. I'm aware that's the point. I requested my name removed from all secondary family privileges. No more just in case. No more emergency fund. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their victim anymore. Around 9 that night, I was brushing my teeth when I got a text alert. Then another, and another. A nearby spa confirmed an appointment for a full luxury package, charged to a prepaid card with my name. Except I hadn't booked anything. I called the front desk. Yes, Miss Rollins, it's already been prepaid, and the guest just arrived. Janelle Rollins? I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Instead, I logged into my bank's dispute center, flagged the transaction, and sent the front desk a copy of the police report I'd started compiling. They offered me a coupon for the inconvenience. I didn't want a free massage. I wanted accountability. I opened my laptop again, created a new timeline, mapped out every instance of fraud, listed dollar amounts, timestamps, IP addresses, and then I drafted two versions, one for the financial crimes department at my bank and another, more brutal, for the police. I was done playing defense. Midnight rolled around. I was still hunched over my desk, screenshots scattered like confetti across my desktop. That's when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "You're ruining everything!" Janelle's voice screeched through the speaker, raw and frantic. "Do you even care what this is doing to Mom?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said, "and you should have thought about that before you stole from me." Her breathing was uneven on the line. "You're sick. You're making a mess of this family." I hung up. No more pleading, no more fear. I saved the audio file under Janelle Threat Part 2. As I leaned back in my chair, a strange calm spread through me. Not joy, not relief, just readiness. Then came the knock on the door, and I knew it wasn't Janelle, because this time, it wasn't family. It was someone with a badge. But when the next knock came, it wasn't her sister. It was someone with a badge. Detective Rowe stood on the threshold, sharp suit, worn eyes. The kind of man who'd seen too many families turn on each other. "Miss Rollins," he asked, "we've reviewed your evidence. It's no longer just a complaint. It's an open investigation." I nodded, jaw clenched. "I've got more." He stepped inside briefly to verify the records. Transaction screenshots, forged loan documents, digital login histories. Before he left, he paused by the door. "You did the right thing, but I won't lie, it's going to get uglier before it gets better." I didn't flinch. Good. Let them finally look in the mirror. An hour later, as I reached for a glass of water in the kitchen, the edges of my vision turned hazy. My hands trembled, legs buckled. The glass shattered before I hit the floor. Everything went black. When I came to, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The familiar beeping of monitors surrounded me. I knew the place. Legacy Emmanuel ER, my old floor. A nurse leaned over me. "You're lucky someone found you in time." I blinked, lips dry. "What happened?" "Tumor growth," she said gently. "Delayed surgery. It's progressed faster than expected." Corwin arrived not long after. His face was pale, but his eyes were fire. "I told you to get it done months ago." "I didn't have the money," I said hoarsely. "You do now. We're making it happen." As I was wheeled into a private room, Corwin handed me his laptop. "You'll want to see this." He'd kept working while I was out, dug deeper into the digital mud pit my family left behind. "Guess who applied for a fitness brand grant using your tax records?" He turned the screen toward me. "Dorian, this idiot left your social on the application. Twice." A cold laugh escaped my throat. Of course he did. And that was enough. 3 hours later, Dorian was arrested in the middle of a live-stream quanda for his supplement brand. Shirtless, holding a smoothie, mid-sentence about alpha discipline. "Turn around, sir." "Wait, what? I didn't— Whoa! The cuffs clicked before he could even drop the blender. At the precinct, Dorian didn't hesitate. The moment he was told the charges involved federal fraud, he flipped faster than a pancake on a Sunday morning. Emails, screenshots, voice memos. He handed over everything. Janelle's instructions, Ramona's bank routing plans, even a recorded phone call where Marvin said, "She'll never fight us. She's too damn loyal." The detective told me later. He sold them out in under 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Janelle cracked. When she found out Dorian had betrayed her, she went live on Instagram. No filters, puffy eyes, voice shaking like a performer who forgot her lines. "She's twisting this," she sniffled, fake crying. "My sister's always hated me. She just wants to hurt us." But the comments didn't go how she expected. Because by then, the press had picked up Corwin's leaked documents. One viewer commented, "You said you didn't know, but that's your voice on the loan call." Another, "So you spent her surgery money? For real?" She tried to delete the video, but the internet doesn't forget. That night, alone in my hospital bed, I watched it unfold on the evening news. Breaking: fitness coach turns on wife in Oregon family fraud case. I couldn't help it. I smiled. One down. It was 8:43 a.m. when my phone lit up. Detective Rowe. I hadn't touched my oatmeal, just stared at the bowl like it might explain what was still left to lose. I swiped to answer. Arla, he said, straight to the point. It's official. We're moving forward with charges. Ramona Ellis, Marvin Ellis, and Janelle Davenport. We need you to come in for one final statement. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just breathed and asked, What time? 11. By noon I was at the station, signing every page, every document, every line that spelled out how my family had systematically dismantled my finances, my trust, and nearly my health. There were no dramatics, just black ink, initials, and silence. Strangely, it didn't feel like closure. Not yet. But for the first time, the pressure in my chest wasn't growing heavier. It had plateaued. That mattered. When I got back to my apartment, someone was already waiting outside my door. Ramona, my mother. But not the woman I remembered. Not the one who used to hum while making casseroles, or who brought me tea when I studied late into the night. No, this woman looked hollow. Her hair was too tightly pulled back, mascara streaked under tired eyes. She pressed the doorbell again, insistently this time, like someone begging the universe for a redo. I didn't open it. From the intercom, her voice cracked. You're tearing this family apart, Arla. This isn't justice, it's cruelty. You're sick, and you'll regret this. I leaned in and said, cold and steady, I'm not the one who stole anything, Ramona. That was you. There was a pause, then muffled sobbing, soft but unmistakable. You're breaking your father's heart, she whimpered. I answered without emotion. He broke mine first. I walked away from the door, but they weren't finished. That night, Janelle launched a GoFundMe campaign, like this was a redemption tour. The headline read, Help us recover from betrayal. The story was twisted, manipulative, and textbook gaslighting. She claimed I was mentally unstable, jealous of her happiness, and that I had fabricated the entire case out of resentment. The image? A filtered photo of her and Dorian, smiling on some beach, cropped from a deleted Instagram post. Her fundraising goal, $50,000, the same amount they'd stolen. But the internet had already turned. The comments under the post were savage. Didn't your husband just get arrested for fraud? Why not ask your sister for help again, since you're so close? Where's the surgery fund, Janelle? I didn't lift a finger. I didn't have to. Corwin flagged the campaign. Tawny submitted documented proof of theft. By morning, GoFundMe's fraud team had pulled the page down, citing terms violations. Janelle's account? Suspended. Her digital cry for sympathy silenced. But she wasn't done. The next day, she reappeared, this time from a burner Instagram account. Her caption read, You want to see real mental illness? Look at the people who think this is okay. But even her loyal followers had gone quiet. The likes stopped. The comments dried up. Because the truth, once it starts cracking through, doesn't stop. It spreads. Like wildfire. At 10:15 that morning, I arrived at the Multnomah County Courthouse. Elise, my attorney, stood beside me like a steel wall in heels, clipboard in hand, expression unreadable but strong. We waited in the lobby. Then I saw them. Marvin, my father, older somehow, his once proud posture now bent, jacket ill-fitting, face pale. Ramona, eyes bloodshot, a tissue clutched so tightly it looked like she was trying to wring guilt out of it. Janelle, in sunglasses indoors, thumbs moving across her phone screen like she was live tweeting a press event. No remorse, not even a twitch of regret. They walked past us, silent, avoiding my eyes. But just before the courtroom doors opened, Ramona turned back. Please, she said, voice brittle. We can fix this. We're still your family. I didn't look at her. I didn't let her see how her words used to work on me. This ends here, I said. With the truth, not yours, mine. Elise opened the courtroom door. I stepped in, not as a daughter, not as a victim, but as a woman who had been burned and decided never to live in smoke again. The courtroom was cold, quiet, a sterile kind of silence, punctuated only by the sound of shuffling papers and the low hum of fluorescent lights. I sat through the proceedings with a still face, letting the details unfold as they were meant to. When the judge read the charges aloud, fraud, identity theft, willful exploitation, I didn't flinch. When he outlined restitution, community service, and financial penalties, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge, it was about liberation. And when it came time for me to speak, to give my victim impact statement, I didn't need notes. I spoke from the part of me they had underestimated the most, my backbone. I'm not here for revenge, I said clearly. I'm here to reclaim my future. I didn't need to list every betrayal. The court had already seen the proof. I lost time, I lost money, I lost my health, but I will not lose myself. The judge nodded solemnly. That's one of the most courageous statements I've heard in this courtroom. Only then, outside under the Oregon sky, did I finally exhale. I didn't break down. I didn't scream. I just let go of the last piece of weight I'd been carrying for far too long. Justice wasn't a finish line. It was a door, and I had just walked through it. And once the gavel dropped, everything changed. Not just for them, for me. The courtroom fell into a silence so thick it swallowed even the shuffling of papers and the creak of the judge's chair. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until the judge's voice shattered the stillness like glass against concrete. Ramona Ellis, Marvin Ellis, this court sentences you both to 24 months probation and orders full financial restitution. You stand convicted of financial fraud, unauthorized identity use, and the willful exploitation of familial trust. A sharp gasp escaped Ramona's lips. Marvin remained stone still, like he'd vanished behind his own shame. The judge continued, turning slightly as he addressed the next name on the docket. And to Janelle Ellis Davenport, you are hereby ordered to pay $63,500 in civil damages, serve 6 months of community service, and are permanently barred from accessing any financial accounts, instruments, or legal affiliations connected to Arla Ellis, in perpetuity. Still, she didn't flinch. No twitch, no apology, no crack in the perfect mask. Even as the courtroom echoed with the memory of Dorian's prior sentencing, no appeal, no leniency, she sat poised, like a woman convinced the stage still belonged to her. But I listened. I was present. Not as a daughter, not as a broken woman, just as someone who had endured and chosen to survive. I didn't tremble this time. I didn't lower my eyes. And then, it was my turn. I stood, my victim impact statement clutched in both hands, not because I needed the words written there, but because they were a testament to how far I'd come. My voice didn't come from my throat. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere forged under pressure. I'm not here for revenge, I began slowly, making eye contact with no one and everyone all at once. I'm here because I chose to live. I paused. Let the weight of that sentence land. I lost money. I lost time. I lost trust. But I will not lose myself. I didn't need to name every betrayal. The courtroom already held the receipts. When I finished, I expected the usual polite nod, perhaps a procedural closing. Instead, the judge looked at me with something that felt like recognition. That, he said quietly, is one of the most courageous statements I've heard in my courtroom. I didn't cry right away. Not there, not in front of them. But the moment I stepped outside the courthouse doors, under a sky that looked far too peaceful for what had just happened, I let the tears fall. Not out of grief, out of relief, out of the release that comes when a long-held breath is finally exhaled. 2 weeks later, I moved. East side of town. Nothing fancy. A modest 2-bedroom townhouse with clean lines, neutral walls, and a tiny balcony that faced a maple tree. One room was for me, the other, for the future, for whatever I wanted to believe in again. The walls were blank, but they weren't empty. They were full of promise. No ghosts, no hidden logins, no shared access. Mine. Every square inch. That same week, my job reinstated me. Not only that, they offered me my promotion back, the one that was put on ice during the investigation. Dr. Lyle, usually as emotionally expressive as a concrete wall, called me personally. His voice cracked slightly as he apologized for how things had been handled. But I didn't take the title. Not because I didn't earn it. I had. But because that version of me, the one chasing titles for validation, was gone. I no longer needed a title to feel valuable. A letter came from HR the same day. All prior suspensions have been formally cleared from your employment record. I pinned the letter to my refrigerator. Not as a trophy, but as proof. Proof that I was right to stand my ground. Proof that silence isn't the only option. Still, not everything was cleanly severed. My inbox told another story. Voicemails from Ramona, alternating between self-pity and fury. Letters from Janelle, some begging for forgiveness, others laced with venom. Accusations, half apologies, thinly veiled threats wrapped in the word family. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete them either. Instead, I archived every message. I created a folder titled, Echoes I Survived, not to revisit, not to wallow, just to remember. One evening, while we sat in my living room, Corwin asked gently, "Why not delete them all? You've won. They're behind you." I looked at him and answered simply, "Because I never want to forget who I was when I let it happen, and who I had to become to end it." These days, mornings are quiet. No drama. No alarm set by someone else's needs. No fires to put out before I brush my teeth. Just coffee, soft playlists, and sunlight creeping across the hardwood floor. The first plant I've owned in years, a pothos, sits by the window. Hardy, forgiving, the kind that survives drought and neglect, then grows again when given care. Its leaves are greener this week, and for the first time in a very long time, I smiled. Not with armor, but with peace. Justice wasn't about watching them suffer. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about a courtroom win or social media vindication. It was about finally choosing me, without guilt, without second-guessing, without shrinking myself for people who only saw me as a resource. This isn't a happy ending. It's an honest one. And that's enough. And if you're still here with me, thank you. I didn't choose this war, but I chose how I ended it. For anyone listening who's ever felt silenced, betrayed, or stolen from, whether by family, friends, or life itself, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not crazy for setting boundaries. You are not selfish for demanding respect. And you are not wrong for walking away when love turns into leverage. Healing didn't come wrapped in apologies. It came the moment I stopped apologizing for protecting myself. So if you're standing in the rubble of something someone else broke, I hope this story reminds you that you can still build, brick by brick, stronger and wiser than before. Your peace is worth protecting. Your voice is worth using. And maybe, just maybe, your story will become someone else's permission to rise too. Now it's your turn. Have you ever been in a situation where family made you feel like the villain just for choosing yourself? What did you learn from it? Tell me in the comments. Drop a 1-inch if this story hit home, or just let me know what city or state you're watching from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. And if this video meant something to you, even just a sentence, a moment, a breath, please take a second to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because the next story might be the one you didn't know you needed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Did you seriously think you could just move your parents into our house without even asking me, Brian? My voice trembled, a mixture of anger and disbelief shaking every word. My husband of 6 years barely glanced up from his laptop, his lips curling into that maddening smirk I had grown to resent. "Oh, Jessica, stop being so dramatic. It's not a big deal. Besides, it's only temporary," he replied, his tone dismissive as though my opinion didn't even register. For a moment, I stood frozen, his words cutting deeper than I expected. "Not a big deal," I repeated, my voice sharper now. "This isn't just any house, Brian. This is my house." The charming 4-story home nestled in a quiet suburb had been in my family for generations. My grandparents had passed it down to me, and I'd always dreamed of raising my own family here. It was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place to shield our 3-year-old son, Paul, from the toxic influence of Brian's controlling parents. Brian finally looked up, his smirk faltering for a split second before returning, weaker but still present. "Let's be honest," he said with a shrug. "It's not like you can stop it." His words landed like a slap. My fists clenched at my sides as I struggled to steady my breathing. "You do remember this house is in my name, right?" I shot back, my voice firm, though inside, I felt like a storm was brewing. For the first time in years, I questioned how well I truly knew the man I had married. The man who now seemed to think he could bulldoze my feelings as easily as closing the lid of his laptop. Before Brian could respond, Paul toddled into the room, his chubby little hands reaching up toward me. His wide, innocent grin broke through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. Forcing a smile, I scooped him up, pressing a kiss to his forehead. I held him close, his tiny fingers playing with my necklace, as if to ground me in the moment. At least Paul was too young to understand the suffocating tension between his parents. "Brian, this is not okay," I said finally, my voice steadier now, but still tinged with the hurt I couldn't hide. "Your parents have never respected me or our space. Why are you doing this? Why now?" Brian didn't even look up. "They're family, Jessica. You wouldn't understand." The word family felt like a slap in the face. My family, the ones who had raised me with love and warmth, had always been my safe haven. My parents owned a small but beloved coffee shop in town, a place filled with laughter, kindness, and support, everything Brian's parents were not. His mother, Emma, and father, David, had been overbearing and dismissive since the day I met them. They made no effort to hide their disdain for me, treating me like an unwelcome guest in my own life. "Don't talk to me about family," I snapped, my voice rising despite myself. "Your parents have done nothing but make me feel like I don't belong. And now you think you can just move them in here without even asking me?" Brian's shoulders tensed, but he still refused to meet my gaze. "It's not permanent," he muttered. "They just need a place to stay for a while." "And what about what I need?" I demanded. "What about what's best for Paul? This is his home too. Do you think it's healthy for him to be around their negativities?" Brian's silence spoke louder than words. He wasn't going to budge. In that moment, I realized that he didn't see this house as my sanctuary, our home, or a legacy I had inherited. To him, it was just a convenient place to assert control, just like his parents had always done. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. I couldn't break down, not now, not in front of him. Instead, I pressed another kiss to Paul's forehead, silently vowing to protect him from the chaos Brian seemed determined to bring into our lives. "Brian," I said quietly but firmly, "if you go through with this without my consent, there will be consequences. I won't let you make me feel powerless in my own home." This time, Brian looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. Maybe he finally realized I wasn't going to back down. Or maybe he thought I was bluffing. Either way, I had made my position clear. This was my home, my safe haven, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me, not even my husband. Just as I was about to respond, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension like a sharp blade. My stomach sank as I looked through the peephole. There they were, Brian's parents, standing on the porch with their suitcases, ready to take over our lives. "Fine," I muttered under my breath, keeping my voice low so Paul wouldn't hear. "Let them in, but this isn't over." Handing Paul to Brian, I opened the door. Emma swept past me without even saying hello, her strong perfume overwhelming the fresh scent of the house. David followed, his usual stern look making it clear he barely acknowledged me, just like he'd done since our wedding. Over the next few days, my worst fears came true. Emma started taking over every corner of my home. She rearranged my kitchen without asking, criticized my parenting at every chance, and acted like she owned the place. "This cereal isn't healthy for Paul," she said one morning as I was preparing breakfast for my son. "In our family, we believe in proper nutrition. You should learn something about it." "It's just cereal," I replied, keeping my voice calm even though I wanted to snap. "Paul is perfectly fine." Emma shook her head, her face full of disappointment, as if I had committed some terrible mistake. "You're too lenient. No wonder he doesn't sleep through the night." That evening, I was tucking Paul into bed, humming softly to help him drift off, when Emma barged into the room without knocking. "Still struggling to get him to sleep?" she said, her tone full of judgment. "Clearly, you're doing something wrong." I stared at her, my patience nearly gone. "I'm doing the best I can," I said, my voice shaking with frustration. "Well, maybe if you had a proper job, you'd have some structure in your life," she snapped back, her smile cold and condescending. "This stay-at-home routine clearly isn't working for you." Anger surged through me. "This is my house, Emma. You're a guest here. Don't forget that." She laughed, her tone sharp and dismissive.
"Oh, dear.
"Brian never mentioned how delusional you are. This is his house too. And as his mother, I have every right to be here." The next morning, I reached my breaking point when I found Emma in Paul's room, going through his drawers. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Organizing. This room is a mess," she replied casually, not even bothering to look up. "That's it," I said, my voice rising as I struggled to stay calm. "I want you out of my house."
Now?"
Emma finally looked at me, her expression a mix of fake surprise and disdain. "Your house?" she sneered. "Sweetheart, this is Brian's house too, and he wants us here." I stormed out of the room, my mind racing. Brian's betrayal and Emma's arrogance were too much to bear. This house was supposed to be my safe place, my sanctuary, and now it felt like a battleground. That night, as I lay awake in bed, I made a decision. I was done being their doormat. If they thought they could walk all over me, they were wrong. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I was going to take back control of my home, my life, and my future. The fight was just beginning, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to stand up for myself. The next morning, I picked up my phone and called my brother, James. He had always been my rock, the one I could lean on when everything felt like it was falling apart. "They're taking over my life, James," I said, my voice trembling as tears threatened to spill. "I can't do this anymore. I feel like I don't even belong in my own home." James's voice was calm and steady, like always. "Jessica, you need to stand up for yourself. Don't let them push you around like this. This is your house, your space. You have every right to demand respect."
His words sparked something inside me. He was right.
I had let them walk all over me for far too long. It was time to fight back. This time, I decided to approach things differently. I needed to gather my thoughts and prepare for the confrontation. Over the next few days, I made a list of everything Emma had done to cross the line. Her constant criticisms, her intrusion into Paul's routines, her rude comments about my parenting, and even her rearranging my kitchen without asking. With each item I wrote down, my resolve grew stronger. My determination grew stronger as the days passed. Finally, the day of the confrontation arrived. I waited until Emma and Brian were sitting in the living room, chatting as if nothing was wrong. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay calm as I walked into the room.
"We need to talk."
"Now," I said firmly, keeping my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. Brian looked up from his phone, surprised by my tone. "What's this about, Jessica?" I took a deep breath. "It's about your parents, Brian. Their constant interference, their complete disregard for my boundaries. It has to stop today." Emma let out a loud scoff, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. We're just trying to help." "Help?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You're not helping. You're undermining me at every turn, treating me like a stranger in my own home. This is supposed to be a place of peace for my son and me, but you've turned it into a battleground." Brian shifted uncomfortably on the couch, clearly not expecting this confrontation. "Jessica, they're my parents. We can't just ask them to leave." I locked eyes with him, my tone unwavering. "No, Brian. They're guests in my home, and they've overstayed their welcome. Either they leave or I do. And I'm taking Paul with me." The room fell silent. My ultimatum hung heavy in the air. Brian's face paled as he realized I wasn't bluffing. Emma, however, was less convinced. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed, her usual smug expression cracking. I met her gaze, without flinching. "Watch me." That night, Emma and David packed their bags. As they walked out the door, Emma turned to give me one last venomous glare. "You'll regret this, Jessica." But as the door closed behind them, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. The house was mine again, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. The following days were quiet. Brian, however, grew distant. His interactions with me became cold and minimal, as though he blamed me for everything that had happened. But even with the strain in our relationship, I found comfort in the peace of my reclaimed home. The sound of Paul's laughter as he played freely again filled me with a sense of relief. One evening, as I sat watching Paul, I realized I had done the right thing. This was our home, our safe space, and I was ready to protect it no matter what. I was tidying up while Paul played with his building blocks when Brian spoke up unexpectedly. "I have a business trip coming up. I'll be gone for a few weeks," he said. His tone was flat, almost indifferent, as if our strained relationship didn't matter. "Fine," I replied curtly, trying to hide my relief at the thought of him being away. After Brian left, the house felt different. It felt lighter, freer. I started undoing all the changes Emma had made, restoring my home to the way I loved it. Each small victory felt like a step toward reclaiming not just my space, but also my confidence and independence. But then something happened I didn't expect. One evening, while cleaning, I noticed Brian's laptop sitting open on the kitchen counter. At first, I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at the screen and froze. Right, there were emails that revealed he was having an affair. And it wasn't just a one-time mistake. It had been going on for months. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Waves of anger, hurt, and betrayal washed over me. The man I had once loved and trusted had not only let his parents walk all over me, but he had also been living a double life. This was the final straw. I closed the laptop and sat down, my mind racing. I couldn't ignore this. Brian had broken every promise, every vow, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I started planning my next steps, each one carefully thought out. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. I explained everything: his parents' intrusion, the emotional toll it had taken on me, and now the affair. Together, we began the process of filing for divorce and securing my financial stability. Next, I contacted a real estate agent. "I want to sell the house quickly and quietly," I told her, my voice firm. She hesitated. "Jessica, are you sure? This is a big decision." "I've never been more certain of anything," I replied. This house had once been my sanctuary, but now it was a reminder of everything I had endured. I needed a fresh start, a place where Paul and I could build a new life, free from Brian's betrayal and his family's toxicity. Offers for the house came in quickly, and with each one, I felt a sense of freedom. The thought of Brian coming back to find the house sold and his control over my life gone brought me bittersweet satisfaction. For the first time in years, I felt strong. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was taking back my life. I was standing up for myself, and I was winning. After Brian left, I turned to the one place I knew I could find comfort: my family. Reconnecting with them felt like a lifeline in the storm. When my parents learned everything Brian had done, they were horrified. Their unwavering support gave me the strength I desperately needed. "We're here for you, Jessica, no matter what," my father assured me one evening as we sat on the porch. I watched Paul toddling around the yard, his innocent laughter reminding me of what truly mattered. I made a silent promise to protect his happiness, no matter how hard the road ahead might be. Brian's return was looming, but I was no longer the same woman he had left behind. The pain and betrayal had only strengthened my resolve. I was ready to face him, armed not just with the truth, but with a plan to take back control of my life and create a better future for Paul and me. When the day finally came, tension hung in the air like a storm. I had rehearsed this moment over and over, imagining every possible reaction Brian might have. But when I heard his key turn in the lock, my heart raced. The door creaked open, and his voice echoed through the now unfamiliar space. "Jessica, I'm home," he called out casually, as if nothing had changed. I stepped out of the kitchen, my posture straight, and my expression calm. "Welcome back, Brian. We need to talk." He glanced around, his eyes narrowing as he noticed the changes I had made while he was gone. "What's going on?" "The house looks different." I didn't flinch. "I sold the house, Brian. It's not ours anymore." His face twisted with disbelief. "You did what?" "You can't just sell our house without telling me." I met his gaze, my voice steady. "It's my house, Brian. And after what I found out, I don't think you have any say in it anymore." His composure faltered, but he tried to recover. "What are you talking about?" "The affair, Brian," I said evenly. "I know everything." For a moment, he was speechless, his face betraying a flicker of panic. Then he scoffed, trying to dismiss it. "Jessica, it's not what you think." I felt anger rising, but I kept my voice calm. "I think it's exactly what it looks like. You betrayed me. You betrayed our family." Brian's shock turned to anger. "You're overreacting. We can work through this." "No, we can't," I said firmly. "I've already filed for divorce." I handed him the papers, the weight of the moment sinking in. What followed was a blur of accusations, weak apologies, and desperate attempts to shift the blame. But I stood my ground. I was done letting him or anyone else control my life. The man I had once loved was gone, replaced by someone selfish and unrecognizable. As Brian stormed out of the house, vowing to fight the divorce, I felt a strange mix of freedom and nervousness. I had taken the first step to reclaim my life, but I knew the fight was far from over. In the weeks that followed, the reality of our separation became public. Brian's parents, once so overconfident and controlling, found themselves caught in the mess. They tried reaching out to me, but I refused to respond. I had cut ties with them completely, focusing only on Paul and the legal process. The day of the court hearing came with a heavy feeling I couldn't shake. Brian sat across the courtroom, looking defeated, as if the weight of his actions had finally hit him. When the judge granted the divorce and gave me custody of Paul, I felt a wave of justice and relief. After the hearing, Brian tried to ask for another chance. "You made your choice, Brian. Now live with it," I said, turning my back on him for the last time. The fallout from the divorce and the truth about Brian's affair rippled through his life. His reputation suffered, and the social circles his family once thrived in turned their backs on them. Emma and David, once so proud and judgmental, were now avoided by those who used to respect them. As I left the courthouse holding Paul's tiny hand, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. This wasn't just the end of something painful, it was a new beginning. A fresh start for me and my son, free from lies and control. The future was uncertain, but it was ours to shape. Life after the divorce felt like stepping into the light after years in darkness. The house was sold, no longer a reminder of bad memories. My focus shifted to rebuilding our lives and running the coffee shop my family had cherished for years. It became more than a business to me. It was my safe haven and a source of pride. Still, Brian's shadow lingered. One evening, as I was closing the shop, I heard a familiar voice.
Turning around, I saw Brian.
He looked disheveled and desperate, nothing like the composed man I had once known. "Jessica, please, I need to talk to you," he said, his eyes searching mine for any trace of kindness. I hesitated, conflicted by the sight of him. "What do you want, Brian?" I asked, my tone guarded. "It's about the alimony and child support," he began, his voice low and full of embarrassment. I can't afford it." Brian started to speak, his voice shaky.
"My job."
I held up a hand to stop him. "Stop right there, Brian. Your choices brought you here. Paul and I won't suffer because of your mistakes." His shoulders slumped, but I refused to let his regret sway me. Seeing him struggle stirred no sympathy in me, only a quiet determination to keep moving forward. As I locked the shop and walked away, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My life, my happiness, and Paul's future were no longer tied to Brian or his family. This was our time to start fresh, and I wouldn't let anything hold us back again. "I've lost everything because of the scandal," Brian said, his voice trembling. "My parents, they're broke too." His words hit me like a cold splash of reality. The man who once seemed untouchable now stood in front of me, utterly defeated. I crossed my arms, keeping my face neutral. That's not my problem, Brian. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. He took a shaky breath, his eyes pleading. But, Jessica, I have nothing left. I'm begging you, for old time's sake. For a fleeting moment, I almost felt pity. His voice cracked, showing just how broken he was. But then the memories came rushing back. The lies, the betrayal, the nights I cried myself to sleep because of him. Any sympathy I felt was drowned out by the pain he had caused. Old times sake? I repeated, my voice sharp.
Those times are gone, Brian.
You should have thought about the consequences before you cheated, before you lied. I turned to leave, ready to put him behind me once and for all. But his next words stopped me.
I'm sorry, Jessica.
Truly, I am, he said, his voice raw with emotion. I was a fool, and I ruined everything. Please help me. For a brief moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I had once loved. He looked vulnerable, regretful, even human. But the wounds he had left were too fresh, the scars too deep. I couldn't forget how he had betrayed me and turned my life upside down. I'm sorry too, Brian, I said, my voice firm but not unkind. But I can't help you. You need to figure this out on your own. He opened his mouth to speak, but I didn't wait to hear it. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, a shadow of the man he used to be. As I strode toward the warmth and safety of my home, I felt a sense of closure. This was the beginning of a new chapter for Paul and me, and nothing was going to stop us from moving forward. I felt a new kind of peace. This wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the end of a painful story. I had finally let go. The journey hadn't been easy. It was filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and moments where I doubted myself. But it also brought me strength and independence. Life didn't stop, it kept moving forward, and so did I. Paul grew a little more every day. His laughter filled the house with joy, and his curiosity reminded me of the innocence and wonder the world still held. The coffee shop became more than just a business. It turned into a warm and welcoming place, a hub for friends and the community. Each morning, the smell of fresh coffee was a gentle reminder of how far I had come. As for Brian and his parents, they faded into the background of my life, becoming distant memories. Their legacy was nothing more than a cautionary tale, reminder of the harm caused by selfishness and betrayal. I no longer felt anger when I thought of them. Instead, I felt grateful for the lessons they taught me, resilience, the strength to stand up for myself, and the courage to keep moving forward. One evening, after a busy day at the shop, I locked the door and looked up at the sky. Shades of orange and pink stretched across the horizon, marking the end of another day. Paul reached for my hand, his tiny fingers wrapping around mine, and I smiled. "Ready to go home, buddies?" I asked. He nodded with a big grin. Our future wasn't perfect, and it wasn't fully clear, but it was bright. With every step we took, I felt more confident in the life we were building. It was a new chapter, a life built on strength, love, and the promise of better days ahead. As Paul and I walked home, hand in hand, I knew one thing for sure. We were moving forward, and nothing could hold us back. I never thought I'd share this, but here I am, 31 years old, finally ready to tell it. My name is Kelly, and this is the story of how my life changed forever when I was 14. Back then, we were just a regular family, Mom, Dad, and me, living in a small house on Maple Street. Dad worked in construction, and Mom was a part-time bookkeeper. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Everything fell apart the day Dad had his accident. One morning, he left for work like normal, but he never came back. Just like that, he was gone. Mom couldn't handle it. She spent hours staring into space, and I had to grow up fast and take care of myself. 7 months after Dad died, Mom sat me down in the kitchen. She was fiddling with her coffee cup, something she always did when she was nervous. "Kelly, honey," she said, "I need to tell you something." I've met someone. His name is Paul, and he makes me happy again. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The late-night phone calls, her sudden interest in how she looked, and those mysterious errands. Still, when she said Paul was moving in with us, along with his 7-year-old daughter Julie, it hit me hard. But Mom, I said, it's only been 7 months since Dad. She cut me off with a firm tone I'd started hearing a lot lately. Life goes on, sweetie. Paul is a good man, and Julie needs a mother figure. We can be a family again. A family. That's what she called it when Paul moved in 3 weeks later, bringing all his stuff and his daughter, Julie. Julie was tiny, with blonde pigtails and big blue eyes. She looked at our house like it was a castle. Mom adored her. Look at her, Kelly, she'd say, watching Julie play with her dolls or color. Isn't she precious? She needs so much love and attention at this age. Julie did need attention, and Mom gave her all of it. Every bit. There was nothing left for me. I watched my mom turn into the perfect stepmom for Julie, while I felt like I disappeared. I first realized how things were going to be about a week after Paul and Julie moved in. We were having dinner, and Paul's mom came over. She was the kind of woman who made you feel small just by looking at you. She glanced at me and said, "Oh, what a big girl you are," then reached over and pinched my cheek so hard it hurt. "Such a pretty face," she said, her fingers digging into my skin like claws. Then she turned to Paul and said, "This house would be absolutely perfect if..." She didn't finish, but she didn't need to. The way she looked at me made it clear I didn't belong in her idea of their perfect family. That night, I found bruises on my cheek where she had pinched me. When I showed Mom, she just shook her head like it wasn't a big deal. After that, life settled into a new routine, but I wasn't part of it. Mom, Paul, and Julie became this happy little trio, always doing things together, going to the park, watching movies, or laughing at the dinner table over Julie's silly jokes. Meanwhile, I got sent to Mom's friend Lauren's house more and more. "Kelly, honey," Mom would say, avoiding eye contact, "Lauren needs help with little Helen today. You don't mind, do you?" So I'd go. At least at Lauren's house, someone was happy to see me. Helen was 4, with bouncy curls and a toothy grin that lit up the room. She'd run to me yelling, "Airy, Airy," whenever I showed up. Playing with her was the best part of my days. We'd build blanket forts, have tea parties with her stuffed animals, or read stories where I'd do all the silly voices. Lauren would bring us snacks and sometimes join in. She'd ask about school and actually listen to what I said. It felt normal, like family should feel. At home, though, it was a different story. Paul's mom, Mrs. Timothy, was there all the time. She acted like she owned the place, rearranging furniture, complaining about the curtains, or suggesting new paint colors. Mom just went along with whatever she said. "These walls should be eggshell, not cream," Mrs. Timothy would declare, and the next day, Mom would be at the store picking out paint samples. "The furniture needs to be rearranged for better energy," she'd say, and Mom would spend her whole weekend moving it around. But Mrs. Timothy's favorite hobby was bothering me. She'd grab my cheeks with her bony fingers, squeezing them so hard it hurt. I felt like my skin would tear when she pinched me. "Still not holding your fork properly, I see," she'd say, squeezing harder. Such poor table manners. "Your mother should have taught you better." Or she'd catch me reading on the couch. "Look at her, slouching like that. No wonder she has terrible posture," she'd snap, pinching me again. "You'll never see my Julie sitting like that." Paul wasn't much better, just in a different way. If I knocked over a glass or dropped a plate while washing dishes, he'd blow up. "Do you know how much that cost?" he'd yell, his face turning red. "Of course you don't. You've never earned $1 in your life, have you? Just a freeloader living off my hard work." I'd mumble, "I'm sorry," while trying to clean up the mess. But he wouldn't stop. "Sorry doesn't fix it, does it? You eat my food, wear clothes I pay for, live in my house, and what do you contribute? Nothing. You just break things and make messes." Every time something like this happened, I'd look at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything, to defend me. But she never did. She'd just pretend not to notice, busying herself with Julie or cleaning. The day I turned 17, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to be Paul's freeloader anymore. That morning, I got up early and walked around the neighborhood putting up flyers I'd made, offering dog walking services. By the afternoon, I had 4 clients lined up. When I knocked on Mrs. Joshua's door 3 streets over, she looked surprised. "You want to walk dogs?" she asked. "What about all the schoolwork you kids have these days?" "I can handle both," I told her, trying to sound confident. "I get good grades, and I'm really responsible with animals." She didn't look convinced, but handed me her golden retriever's leash anyway. "All right, let's give it a try. Brian needs a walk every day after school. $20 per walk." That was just the start. Soon, my little business began to grow. I was walking 6 dogs, babysitting the Martinez twins on weekends, and helping old Mr. Donald with his grocery shopping. Lauren even hired me as Helen's after-school nanny, which felt strange since I'd been watching her for free before. I saved every dollar I earned. I didn't spend anything on candy, movies, or the stuff other kids my age bought. After 4 months, I finally had enough money to buy something I'd been dreaming about, a smartphone. It wasn't fancy, just a simple model on sale, but it was mine. The day I brought it home, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time, I had something that was just mine, something no one could say they bought for me. I was in my room setting it up when Julie burst in, like she always did, without knocking. "What's that?" she asked, pointing at my phone. She was 9 now, and had a habit of wanting everything she saw. "It's my new phone," I said calmly. "I bought it with the money I earned from my jobs." Her eyes went wide. "But I want a phone," she yelled, and before I could stop her, she ran downstairs screaming for Paul. My stomach sank as I heard his heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. "What's wrong, princess?" he asked from the doorway. "Kelly has a phone and I want it," Julie whined, pointing at me like I'd done something wrong. What happened next still makes me furious. Without saying a single word to me, Paul walked over, grabbed the phone out of my hands, and gave it to Julie. "Daddy's got you covered, sweetheart," he said to her, completely ignoring me. I was so angry I couldn't even see straight. The next day at school, I told my English teacher, Mrs. James, everything. I told her about the phone, about how Paul always put me down, and how Mom never stood up for me. She listened quietly and then took me to the principal's office. By that afternoon, Mom was called in. I wasn't in the meeting, but I could hear raised voices. When Mom came out, her face was bright red with anger, but she had my phone in her hand. She shoved it at me without even looking at me. "Here," she said through clenched teeth. "I hope you're happy now." That night, after Julie had cried for hours about losing her phone, Mom came to my room. "How dare you?" she hissed. "How dare you go behind our backs like that? Do you know how embarrassing that was? You're nothing but a traitor." That was the last thing she said to me for 3 weeks. She and Paul both ignored me, walking past me like I wasn't there, talking around me like I didn't exist. Even at dinner, they'd pass dishes by me without looking at me. 3 years went by in pretty much the same way. I worked my jobs, tried to keep my head down at home, and focused on school. I worked hard, knowing that education was my way out. When senior year came, I applied to every scholarship I could find. The day the letter from State College arrived, I was so nervous, I thought I might throw up. I waited until I was alone in my room to open it. My hands were shaking so much, I could barely tear the envelope. "Dear Miss Thompson, we are pleased to inform you I had to read it 4 times before I understood. They were giving me a full scholarship. I did it. I was going to college, and I wouldn't have to ask Paul for money. I thought maybe this would make them proud. Maybe this would finally make Mom see me again. So, I waited until dinner that night when everyone was sitting at the table. "Mom, Paul, I have some good news," I said, my heart pounding. "I got accepted to State College." Paul's fork hit his plate with a loud clink. "You applied to college without telling me?" he snapped. "Who do you think you are, living in my house, eating my food, and making decisions like this behind my back?" "But it's a full scholarship," I tried to explain. "You won't have to pay anything." "Damn right," he said, cutting me off. "I wouldn't pay a single cent," Paul spat. "Not for an ungrateful freeloader like you. Always sneaking around. Always plotting something." I looked at Mom, desperate. "Mom, please say something. Why aren't you standing up for me?" She finally looked up, but her eyes were cold. "Why should I? You've never shown any respect for this family. You've never accepted Paul. All you've done is try to ruin my marriage from the start." Respect. I felt something inside me snap. All the years of hurt and anger came rushing out. Respect him? He's a bully and a horrible person. There's nothing to respect. The slap came out of nowhere. One moment, I was standing there, shaking with anger. The next, my cheek was burning, and Mom was standing in front of me, her hand still raised. "Get out," she whispered, then yelled louder. "Get out of my house." I touched my cheek, stunned, feeling like I was in a bad dream. I ran upstairs, grabbed my backpack, and stuffed it with whatever clothes I could reach, my phone, my school papers, and the little bit of cash I had saved. Everything else had to stay. I could hear Julie laughing downstairs and Paul yelling, but it all felt far away. 15 minutes later, I was standing on Ashley's porch, Ashley from my biology class, the only person I could think to call. When she opened the door and saw me, saw my backpack and the tears running down my face, she didn't ask any questions. She just pulled me inside and hugged me. I was sitting in Ashley's kitchen, trying not to cry while stressing about how I'd manage college without a home, when her Aunt Jessica walked in. "So, you're the girl Ashley told me about," she said, looking me over. "Need a job." It turned out Jessica owned a little Italian restaurant downtown, and she had a small studio apartment above it. Before I knew what was happening, she was offering me both. "Half rent, free meals, flexible hours around her classes," she said, like it was no big deal. "The apartment needs some work, but it's clean and safe." I started working as a waitress at her restaurant, learning everything. It wasn't easy, but it felt like a fresh start. I learned everything I could about the restaurant business. Jessica was tough but fair, teaching me things I'd never learn in my college business classes. "Watch that table," she'd say, pointing to customers who kept sending food back. "That's why we document every complaint and compliment. Details matter in this business." The apartment above the restaurant was tiny, just big enough for a bed and a mini fridge, but it was mine. No Paul yelling about freeloaders, no Julie barging in, no Mrs. Timothy's judgmental looks. Just my own space where I could study, sleep, and finally breathe. By my senior year of college, Jessica promoted me to administrator. I graduated with my business degree on a Friday and was back at work by Wednesday, managing schedules, inventory, and staff. "You've got a gift for this," Jessica told me 4 years later when I'd worked my way up to manager. One day, she called me into her office. She looked tired but proud. "Ashley tells me you two have been talking about a partnership," she said. I shifted nervously. "We've talked about it, but—" "Good," Jessica interrupted. "Because I'm retiring. The restaurant is going to Ashley, but she'll need someone who knows this business inside and out. Someone like you." My heart stopped. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying you two should run this place together. Equal partners. You've got the experience, and she's got the passion. It could be a great team." That night, Ashley and I stayed up talking about it. I had savings from all the money I'd been putting aside for years, and she had big ideas for updating the menu and growing the business. "We can do this," she said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "Really do this, Kelly. Make it our own." So we did. I put in everything I had, and together we turned Jessica's traditional Italian restaurant into something new and uniquely ours. Over the years, we even opened a second location across town. Sometimes, as I walked through the restaurants, watching everything run smoothly, I'd think about my family. 11 years had passed since the night Mom slapped me and kicked me out. They were still living in the city, but my life had moved far beyond them. I knew a little about my family from the rare times I came across Julie's social media posts, but we lived in completely different worlds now. One day, Ashley and I were in our office above the downtown restaurant, surrounded by spreadsheets and plans for expansion, when we heard the sound of a group arriving downstairs. "Sounds like the engagement party's here," Ashley said, glancing at the booking schedule. 100 people should be a good night. We had a tradition since taking over the restaurant. We'd go out and talk to customers, get feedback, and make them feel special. It was one of the things that made us stand out from other places. "I'll go check on them," I said, grabbing my branded blazer and pinning on my name badge. "You finish up with the vendor contracts." As I headed downstairs, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses grew louder. A big party like this could lead to repeat business or more event bookings. I adjusted my badge and put on my best professional smile. Then I saw them. At the head table sat my mother. Her hair was grayer than I remembered but styled perfectly, as always. Paul was next to her, looking older but somehow still the same. And Julie, she was in a sparkly dress, holding hands with a guy in an expensive suit. My sister's engagement party. For a second, I thought about turning around, but before I could move, Mom's eyes met mine. I saw the recognition hit. "Well, look who it is," she announced loudly, making everyone turn to look. "Our waitress for the evening." Paul's face twisted into that same smug look I remembered. 31 years old, and still serving tables. Can't say I'm surprised. I opened my mouth to say something, but Mom cut me off. "I always knew you'd end up like this," she said, her voice full of satisfaction. "Look at your sister, a college graduate, an economist, getting married to a wonderful man. And you? Still wearing a name tag and taking orders." Julie giggled and squeezed her fiancé's hand. "Maybe she'll do our dishes tonight, right, Daddy? Show us her special skills with the floors, too." Paul stood up, swaying slightly. He'd clearly been drinking. "In fact, let's give her something to clean up right now." It all happened so fast. He grabbed a plate of salad from the table and threw it on the floor. The crash made everyone jump. I felt a sharp sting on my cheek and touched it. When I pulled my hand away, my fingers were red with blood. "Oops," Paul smirked, staring at the blood trickling down my face. "Better get a mop, waitress." I stood there, shaking with anger as the blood dripped down my cheek. 12 years of pain and frustration boiled up inside me, and I was ready to say everything I'd been holding in. But before I could speak, Ashley's voice cut through the tension. "I believe this situation requires immediate attention," she said, walking over with calm authority, the kind she'd learned from her Aunt Jessica. She was holding our service agreement, bound in leather with the restaurant's gold logo on the front. Ashley cleared her throat and spoke to the room. "According to our service agreement, Section 4.1, any customer who verbally abuses or physically harms our staff or ownership," she paused and gestured toward me, "will be immediately removed from the premises." Ownership. Mom's mouth fell open. "What are you talking about?" Ashley smiled sharply. "Oh, didn't you know? You're speaking to Kelly Thompson, co-owner of this restaurant and 3 others across the city." The room went completely silent. I watched as the color drained from my mom's face. She looked around the restaurant, really looked this time. She noticed the framed reviews on the walls, the elegant decor, and the upscale customers. It was all the success she'd never cared to know about. That's impossible," Paul stammered, but I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. Ashley didn't miss a beat. "Furthermore," she continued, "in cases of assault, we have the right to terminate service immediately without a refund."
She turned to me.
"Kelly, it's your call." I straightened my blazer, wiped the blood off my cheek with my sleeve, and finally found my voice. "Clear the tables," I said firmly. "All 100 guests need to leave now." Our staff sprang into action, quickly removing plates and glasses. The night was over for them. I heard a loud screech. It was Mrs. Timothy, Paul's mother, clutching her plate of pasta like it was a treasure. "You can't do this," she yelled, her voice just as shrill as when she used to scold me about table manners while pinching my cheeks. "This is my son's daughter's engagement party." One of our waiters, Andrew, tried to take her plate, but she yanked it back so hard that sauce flew everywhere. "Help! Help! They're attacking me!" she shrieked. Paul lunged forward, his face red with anger. "Get your hands off my mother," he shouted, fists clenched, heading straight for me. But our security team was faster. 2 guards stepped between us, while a third calmly announced that the police were already on their way. Julie was crying hysterically, her perfect engagement party completely ruined. "Mom, do something," she wailed. But Mom just stood there, mascara running down her face. The woman who had slapped me and thrown me out years ago couldn't even look me in the eyes now. The next 40 minutes were complete chaos. The police arrived first, taking statements from multiple witnesses who had recorded everything on their phones. Paul was handcuffed and let out, still yelling threats. Then the paramedics arrived and cleaned the cut on my cheek while the guests quietly filed out, whispering to each other. 4 days later, my phone rang. The number was unknown. When I answered, I heard Mom's voice, soft and almost begging. "Kelly, please don't hang up." I stayed silent, waiting. "Look, about Paul," she said. "The police are pressing charges. You need to drop them. He could lose his job over this." "No," I said simply and hung up. Within hours, the social media attacks began. Mom's first post was long and dramatic, making herself out to be the victim of a cruel restaurant owner who had ruined her daughter's engagement party. The comments were full of sympathy, with people promising never to visit our restaurants. Then Julie joined in, calling me a psychotic stepsister who couldn't stand to see her little sister happy. The posts spread fast in local community groups. Ashley found me staring at my phone, reading the lies. "You know we have it all on video, right?" she said. Jessica had installed a security system years ago that automatically zoomed in and recorded audio when it detected raised voices or aggressive movements. The footage was crystal clear. You could hear every word. Paul's threats, Mom's insults, the crash of the plate, and Mrs. Timothy screaming. We had everything. I posted the video in the comments under Mom's rant with a simple message. "Here's what really happened." The video blew up overnight. Other guests from the party started sharing their phone recordings too. Someone had the perfect clip of Andrew trying to take Mrs. Timothy's plate, her face twisted in anger, pasta sauce flying everywhere, while Andrew stayed calm and professional. That clip alone went viral and got millions of views. Soon, restaurant drama was trending, first locally, then nationally. Food blogs picked up the story. Family ruins engagement party at daughter's restaurant. The comments filled with people sharing their own stories about toxic families and estrangement. The fallout was quick. Paul's company, already embarrassed by his arrest, couldn't ignore the viral video of him attacking his stepdaughter at her own restaurant. They quietly demoted him to a lower position. The court fined him heavily for assault and property damage. Mom tried to do damage control, deleting her posts, but screenshots had already spread. Julie's wedding venue canceled on her. They didn't want to be tied to the scandal. And Mrs. Timothy? She became an internet meme, nicknamed the Pasta Lady, with her screeching face plastered across social media. As I watched the views climb on that security footage, I remembered something I used to tell myself back when Mom kicked me out. Someday things will be different. Someday they'll realize what they did and try to make it right. But seeing them in my restaurant that night, trying to humiliate me after all these years, I finally understood. Some things can't be fixed. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. The video ended up being great for business, but that wasn't why I kept it pinned to my profile. I kept it there as a reminder for me and for others that a happy ending doesn't always mean forgiveness or a reunion. Sometimes, it's about accepting that it's okay to walk away and never look back. In the middle of Baltimore, there is a very fancy hotel called Julian Gold Rush. On the top floor of this hotel, there's a beautiful restaurant named Law. At night, it gives you an amazing view of the city lights. The ceilings are high, the chandeliers glow softly, and there's gentle jazz piano music playing in the background. All of this makes the restaurant feel very special, like a peaceful escape from the busy world outside. Everything there feels expensive and perfect. Today is my 30th birthday, and I was really looking forward to having dinner with my mother and sister. My name is Jessica. Even though I had a busy day at work, I made sure to fix my schedule so I could celebrate with them. My heart was beating fast as I stepped into the elevator, full of excitement. I kept thinking, this is going to be a wonderful birthday. I imagined sitting with my family, enjoying warm food, talking, laughing, and making sweet memories. I expected it to be one of the best nights of the year. I hurried to the restaurant, feeling happy and excited. But everything changed the moment I opened the restaurant door. Right in front of me, I saw my mom, Patricia, and my sister, Jennifer, sitting at a table. They were already eating dessert. I froze. The table had a clean white tablecloth, but there were empty plates and used wine glasses on it. It was clear they had already finished their meal. They were smiling and drinking espresso like everything was fine. I slowly walked toward them, confused and hurt.
Why?
I asked in a quiet voice. When I called out, they finally noticed me. "Oh, Jessica, you finally made it," my mom said, putting her coffee cup down gently. Her face didn't show any surprise or guilt. It was like she didn't see anything wrong. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice dry and weak. "We had plans for dinner together, didn't we?" "Yes, we did," she answered. "But I thought you were too busy." "So, you started without me?" I asked, feeling a heavy pain in my chest. "Yes," she said calmly. "You're always busy with work. We didn't want to bother you, so we just went ahead and enjoyed the evening." "But I told you I was coming," I said, trying to hold back tears. "Yes, but we weren't sure if you would really make it. And this place is so nice. We didn't want to waste the reservation." My heart sank. This was supposed to be a special day, a day to feel loved and celebrated. Instead, I felt forgotten. I didn't know what to say. I looked at them and said, "You could have waited for me." Jennifer rolled her eyes and said, "There was no need to wait. You didn't get here on time anyway." "I was just a little late," I replied. Okay, I'm sorry. Since I'm here now, maybe I'll just have some dessert." Jennifer smiled and played with her fork. "Sure, why not?" I started to sit down, but then she quickly handed me the bill. "Here you go, Jessica," she said with a smirk. "Happy birthday. You can pay for this one." I froze. "You're joking, right?" "Nope," she said and laughed loudly. "You have a good job, don't you? You can afford it." I was shocked. "Wait, aren't you supposed to be celebrating my birthday? Why would I be the one paying?" "Well," she said with a shrug, "you earn the most money." "It's not about money," I said, my voice getting louder. I looked at Mom, hoping she would say something. But she just smiled calmly and said nothing. Then she finally spoke. "You're always busy. You hardly have time for family. So, when you do, maybe you should treat us instead." I just stared at them. I felt like I had been punched in the heart. I had always worked hard for my family. I got top grades in school, won scholarships so my parents didn't have to pay for my university. After that, I got a great job at a well-known company. I worked hard, moved up quickly, and started making good money. I even helped pay for Jennifer's college.
I thought I was doing all of this for them. For my family.
But now, they were treating me like I didn't matter at all. "I can't," I whispered.
"What?"
Jennifer asked, confused. "I can't do this anymore," I said, standing up. "You had dinner without me. Then you gave me the bill. That's not a birthday gift. That's just mean." My mom frowned. "You don't need to say it like that. This day is special to me," I said, holding back tears. "But it's like you don't even care how I feel." Jennifer sighed.
Fine.
"If you're going to be this upset, I'll let Mom pay." "It's not about the money." I grabbed my bag and turned around. "Where are you going?" my mom asked.
"Home," I said.
"There's no reason for me to stay." "Wait," Jennifer shouted. "Are you really that mad? It was just a little joke." "No, it wasn't," I said. "It wasn't funny at all." I walked out of the restaurant. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside. Shivering, I pulled out my phone and sent a message to my fiancé, Paul. "Can we meet soon? I need to see you now." I was trying so hard not to cry. I walked quickly through the busy Boston streets. The wind was cold, and even though the city lights were bright and people around me were smiling, I felt nothing but sadness inside. My heart felt heavy and frozen. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Paul. "I'm here for you. Where are you?" As soon as I read his message, the tears I had been holding in started to fall. My hands shook as I typed back. "I just left Julian Gold Rush. I need to see you now." Right after I sent it, Paul called me. "Jessica, he said gently. Hearing his voice made the tears come even faster. Paul, please, I need to see you right now. I'm on my way, he said. I'm in the car. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Just hearing that made me feel a little better. I knew he would understand. That gave me the strength to keep going. As I walked to meet him, my tears started to slow down, but the pain in my heart stayed. After a few minutes, a black SUV pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down, and I saw Paul's face. Get in, he said softly. I opened the door and sat down without saying a word. As soon as the door closed, Paul gently held my hand. Are you okay? No, I'm not. As I spoke, more tears came. Paul didn't say anything. He just held my hand tighter. His warmth made me feel a little more calm. Should we go home? He asked. No, I said. Can we go somewhere quiet? Okay. Without asking any more questions, Paul started driving. He took me to a small, quiet cafe far away from the busy parts of the city. The place was warm and calm, with soft lights. We sat at a small table in the corner. Paul took off his coat and looked at me gently. What happened? He asked. With his soft voice, I finally felt ready to speak. I was betrayed by my family, I said. What do you mean? It was supposed to be a birthday dinner. But when I got to the restaurant, they had already eaten. Mom and Jennifer were just finishing dessert. Paul listened quietly. When I asked why, they said they thought I was too busy. Then, Jennifer gave me the bill and said, "Here's your gift. You can pay for it." As I told him, the anger and sadness came rushing back. That's terrible, Paul said. I can't believe they would treat you like that. Especially on your birthday. If they really cared, they wouldn't do something so hurtful. I nodded and bit my lip. Just because someone is family, it doesn't mean they can treat you any way they want. Do we really have to forgive everything just because we're related? I looked at Paul and said, just because they're family doesn't mean they can hurt me. That doesn't make it okay. Paul nodded. They can't excuse the pain they caused you. Hearing him say that made me feel something inside. He wasn't just listening to my words, he was really listening to my heart. He understood. Thank you, I said.
For what? He asked.
For really listening to me, I replied. Paul smiled gently. Of course, Jessica. You're the most important person to me. His kind words made me feel warm inside. As I took a sip of my warm latte, I finally started to relax a little. I don't think I'd feel better if I went home right now, I said quietly. Then how about we go somewhere else? Paul suggested. We could stay at a hotel, or you could come to my place. Let's go somewhere that feels peaceful, where you can forget about today. I paused for a moment. I didn't want to be alone tonight. Can we go to your place? I asked. Of course, he said with a soft smile. He gently took my hand. Let's go. We left the cafe. The night air was cold against my skin, but Paul's hand was warm in mine, and that warmth made the cold easier to bear. We got into his car and drove to his house. I knew that tonight, being with Paul would help my heart rest and heal. When we arrived, Paul opened the front door, and right away, a soft and calming smell filled the air. It smelled like wood and a little like sweet vanilla. It was comforting, almost like the house itself was welcoming me in. Come in, Jessica, he said as he took my coat and led me inside. The living room was cozy, with soft lights and a fireplace glowing gently. A big sofa sat near the fire, and everything felt warm and safe. It's really comforting here, I said. I'm glad you think so, Paul replied with a smile. Wait here, I'll be right back. He walked into another room while I sat on the sofa and took a deep breath. The pain from earlier still sat in my chest, but it was starting to feel lighter now. Being here helped. A few minutes later, Paul came back holding something in his hands. What's that? I asked. He smiled and showed me a small cake with one candle on top. Happy birthday, Jessica. I covered my mouth in surprise. Paul, I know today didn't go how you hoped, he said, but I still wanted to celebrate. It's your special day. He lit the candle and placed the cake in front of me. Make a wish and blow out the candle. Feeling full of emotion, I closed my eyes. I wish I can truly smile on my next birthday. Then I gently blew out the candle. Happy birthday, Jessica, Paul said softly. I looked at him and smiled. Thank you. I never thought something this kind could happen tonight. I didn't want her birthday to end in sadness, Paul said as he cut the cake and gave me a slice. I picked up a fork and took a bite. The cake was soft and sweet. It tasted perfect. This is delicious, I said, smiling. I'm glad you like it, Paul said with a proud smile. I wanted to bake it myself, but I didn't have enough time. That's okay, I said. Just the fact that you prepared this for me means a lot. I looked at him warmly. Paul looked away shyly, then said softly, Next year, let's celebrate your birthday at a restaurant you really like. His words made my heart feel warm again. Yes, I nodded. Will you be with me next year too? Paul gently held my hand and looked into my eyes. Of course. Not just next year, but always. His words made me feel safe. I was still hurting from what happened with my family, but being with Paul made me feel hopeful again. I could finally start to look forward.
Thank you, Paul, I said.
I'm the lucky one for having you in my life. The fireplace crackled softly as we sat together, eating the cake and enjoying the peaceful moment. In the end, my birthday turned into something special. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mother and sister. My mom's voice was softer than usual. Jennifer spoke with her usual cheerful tone. Jessica, about yesterday, my mom began. We thought you wouldn't mind, since you're always busy, Jennifer added quickly. We gave you the bill as kind of a joke. We thought you could easily pay for it. We didn't expect you to get so upset. Hearing their words made my chest feel tight. Was this really something they could call a joke? My feelings weren't something that could be pushed aside so easily. I took a deep breath and began to speak, my voice shaking a little. I've always felt left out in our family. I know I've been busy and couldn't always call, but I felt like you were ignoring me. It really hurt. After saying that, I ended the call. My hands were shaking. Saying those words out loud brought up pain I had kept inside for a long time. I knew it was right to speak up, but deep inside, I was scared. I didn't want to lose my family completely. A few minutes later, my mom called again, but I didn't pick up. My heart still felt heavy, and I wasn't ready to talk yet. I stared at her name on my phone screen, then slowly slid to ignore the call. Then messages from Jennifer started coming. Jessica, please don't ignore me. Let's talk properly. We didn't mean to hurt you. Reading her words made my chest feel tight again. I couldn't answer. My heart felt torn, caught between hoping they would understand me and being hurt by them again. What happened on my birthday made me realize something. It was time to take a serious look at my relationship with my mother and sister. For a long time, they had been selfish and careless with my feelings. Now, after everything they did, I knew I couldn't keep letting my emotions get in the way of making the right choice. Then, one day, something shocking happened. I got a letter from a bank. The envelope was marked Notice. Inside, there was a list of credit card charges I didn't recognize. I felt confused and worried. So, I contacted the credit card company right away to ask about the details. To my surprise, I found out that someone had taken out a loan using my name, without asking me. This can't be real, I thought. But it was. After checking everything, I saw the names listed. My mother and sister. They had been using my name to make expensive purchases and go on trips. I was speechless. When I asked them about it, Jennifer just laughed and said, "It's okay, we're family, right?" My mom didn't seem sorry either. She said, "You earn enough money. You should be helping us out a little." In that moment, something inside me broke. This wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore. This was more than betrayal, it was a crime. That night, I called Paul. He's always calm and kind, but he also doesn't let unfair things slide. I knew he would understand and help me think clearly. He picked up right away. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Just hearing his voice made me feel a bit better, but I knew I had to stay strong. I took a deep breath and told him everything. "So," Paul said slowly, "your mother and sister used your name to get credit cards and loans, and they didn't ask you?" "Yes," I said. And when I confronted them, they acted like it was no big deal. They said, "We're family." but I can't forgive them for this. Paul was quiet for a moment, then asked, "What do you want to do?" I thought about it, then answered clearly, "I want to take legal action. Just because they're my family doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. They've ignored my feelings for years. I can't let this continue." Paul let out a soft sigh. "If that's your decision, I'll support you. First, I'll introduce you to a lawyer. I know someone who handles fraud cases very well."
Really? I asked. Yes.
"What they did is illegal. If we act quickly, we can stop it from getting worse, and the lawyer can guide us through the next steps." Hearing Paul say that made me feel safe. I had always been scared to share personal problems, especially about my family. But Paul didn't judge me. He supported me and offered real help. "Thank you, Paul," I said quietly. "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "You're important to me. Let's go see the lawyer together tomorrow. If we're going to fight this, we'll do it the right way." As I listened to his steady, kind voice, I finally felt like I wasn't alone anymore. The next day, I felt stronger inside. I went to the lawyer's office with Paul to talk about what my mother and sister had done, using my name without my permission. We were getting ready to take legal action. The lawyer listened carefully, wrote everything down, and explained things clearly. "This is likely fraud," he said calmly. "It can be treated as a criminal case. You also have the right to ask for money in a civil case. Which way would you like to go?" Without thinking twice, I said, "Both." I wasn't going to cry over my family anymore. All the pain and sadness they caused me, now I would use it to protect myself and my future. A few days later, my lawyer sent an official letter to my family. That's when everything started to change. The first person to react was my father. He had always ignored my mother and sister's behavior, but this time, he realized it was serious. "I want to talk as a family," he said. So I agreed to meet. Paul and the lawyer came with me. We met in a quiet hotel lounge. My mother, sister, and father were all there. Paul sat beside me, and the lawyer sat nearby, ready to support me. My mother and sister looked annoyed, like they didn't want to be there. My father looked tired, as if the weight of everything was finally catching up to him. My mother spoke first. "Was it really necessary to make such a big deal out of this?" I let out a cold laugh. "If you think it's no big deal, then you shouldn't have used my name without asking." "But we're family," she said. "So, that means you can do whatever you want." I asked, "Even if it hurts me? I'm just supposed to smile and take it?" Jennifer rolled her eyes. "You're exaggerating. You don't need to blame us so much. Are you really this upset over a little money?" "A little?" I snapped. "Do you even know how much you spent? Do you know how hard I worked to earn that money?" My mother and sister said nothing. It seemed like they had never really thought about it before, like they believed money just appeared out of nowhere. Then my father finally spoke. He took a deep breath. "I was wrong too," he said. My mother and sister looked at him, surprised. "I spoiled Patricia and Jennifer too much," he continued. "Jessica, you were always hoping for something from the family, but I didn't see it. I ignored it. I'm sorry. I didn't expect that." It was the first time my father really tried to understand how I felt. My mother and sister looked down, quiet. Maybe they were starting to realize something. I looked at them and spoke from my heart. Ever since I was little, no one praised me for anything, not even when I got good grades. Mom only cared about Jennifer, and I always felt like I didn't belong. Dad, you were always busy, always tired. I worked so hard, hoping someone would notice. But no one did. I was lonely, so lonely. When I talked about the things I had achieved, my family's replies were usually cold or very short. Over time, I felt like I was becoming invisible. My voice shook as I spoke. "I just wish you had noticed me earlier." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Jennifer stayed quiet, her head still down. "It's too late now," I said. "After this, I plan to step away from all of you." My mother looked up in shock. "But we're family or not," I replied firmly. "You stepped all over my life, didn't you?" My mother couldn't say anything. "I won't let you control me anymore," I continued. "I'm going to marry Paul and start a new life." Paul gently squeezed my hand. "Whatever choice you make, I'm here for you. I smiled softly. Then the lawyer spoke. The legal process has already started. From here on, the court will decide everything. My mother and sister looked down, saying nothing. My father gave a small nod. I'm truly sorry, he said. I didn't respond. I simply stood up and walked out. As the trial moved forward, the court confirmed that my mother and sister had used my name without permission. I sat quietly in the courtroom as the judge gave the final decision. The defendants used the plaintiff's name without approval, causing serious debt. They must repay the full amount and also pay damages. My mother and sister looked shocked. Jennifer whispered, "This can't be happening." My mother's shoulders dropped, and my father gave a long sigh. "This is what they deserve," I said calmly. I looked at Paul, who was sitting behind me. He smiled and gently held my hand. After the verdict, my mother and sister now had large debts to pay back. They also had to cover the extra money caused by the damage they did using my name. "We don't have enough money. I never thought it would end like this," Jennifer said sadly. My mother looked like she was finally starting to regret the way they had lived. My father looked at them seriously and said, "You've both done as you pleased for too long. Do you finally see how much pain Jessica has gone through?" Neither of them replied. They had no words left. A few weeks later, I got a message from my father. "We were wrong. I finally understand how badly we treated you. Can we try again as a family?" As they worked to pay off the debt, it seemed my mother and sister had started to reflect. Jennifer got multiple part-time jobs, and my mother began to change her lifestyle, trying to live more responsibly. I didn't answer right away. I needed time. After thinking quietly for a while, I finally replied, "I can't go back to the way things were. Not right away." On the other end of the phone, I could feel them holding their breath, waiting. "The birthday," I said, "the lies and the fraud, it wasn't just about those things." I had always been hurt by how my family didn't care and only thought about themselves. But I never said anything. And even when I tried, they didn't listen. I closed my eyes and spoke softly. "That's why I can't just go back to being a family again right away. I need some space." I could hear my mother crying. Jennifer looked like she wanted to say something, but she stayed silent. After that, I made a decision. I would stop all contact with my family. I needed to move on and start fresh with Paul. That night, I called him. I paused for a moment before speaking. When I heard his voice, I felt a little more at ease. "Jessica? What's wrong?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I've decided to stay away from my family for now." Paul didn't interrupt. He just listened. "I'm going to cut off contact completely. I want to start a new life with you." I didn't want to be stuck in the past anymore. "I understand," Paul said kindly. "And I'm really proud of you for everything you've done and for being strong enough to move forward." "Thank you, Paul," I said. My voice shook a little. "Being with you helps me feel like I'm healing. And now I just want a fresh start, somewhere new, with just the two of us." There was a short pause. Then Paul replied calmly, "Let's do that. Your happiness means the most to me." His words made me feel warm inside. I knew that with him, I could take the first steps on a new path. "Thank you, Paul. Will you stay by my side?" "Of course," he said firmly. "No matter what." Hearing that, I finally felt peace in my heart. And so, Paul and I began a new life together in a different town. I looked forward to a brighter future. But even after we moved, messages from my family didn't stop. At first, I ignored them. Still, my thoughts often drifted back to them. I had mixed feelings, pain, anger, but also a small bit of hope. One day, I opened a message from my mother. It said, "Jessica, I truly hope you're doing well. If you can find it in your heart, even just a little, I'd like us to try again as a family. I really wish for your happiness." Reading her message, I felt something inside me shift. It didn't erase the hurt, but it showed she finally cared, even just a little. That alone began to close the deep hole in my heart. Messages also came from Jennifer and my father. Each time, I didn't know what to do. Part of me still wanted to stay away, but another part slowly began to hope we could fix things. Then one quiet night, while sitting with Paul, I suddenly didn't feel well. The next day, I went to the hospital, and what I found out changed everything. I was pregnant. A mix of surprise, nervousness, and excitement filled my heart. At that moment, I knew if I was going to start a new life, I also wanted to slowly fix things with my family. When I told Paul, he gave me a gentle smile. "Jessica, if that's what you want, I'll support you," he said. "If you want to reconnect with your family, I'll be here to help." His kind words made me feel more at ease. The thought of becoming a parent and the hope of a new beginning gave me strength. I wanted to make peace with my past and build a loving, happy home for our baby. A few weeks later, I decided to reach out to my family. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to try. At first, our talks were uncomfortable and full of pauses. But slowly, we began to open up and share how we really felt. One day, I had a quiet, honest conversation with my mother. "Jessica," she said, "I'm really happy you're talking to us again. From now on, I'll try harder to understand your feelings." Hearing that touched my heart. Our bond had been broken for a long time, but now, I felt it could be rebuilt. Paul and I were starting a new chapter in life, and with our baby on the way, I wanted to surround our child with love and support. I wanted to create a warm home, and that included giving my family a chance to grow and heal with me. The past had hurt me deeply, but now, I believed the future could be different. I wanted us all to stay connected, and this time, move forward together as a true family. I never imagined my wedding anniversary would turn into such a nightmare. My husband's words cut through me like a knife. "Celebrate with you? Not a chance. Do you really think you're worth anything to me? You're disgusting. Thank God I'm leaving for a business trip soon. I won't have to see your face." He continued his tirade, mocking my family's construction business, saying, "Find me a nice place to stay, and don't count on your failing little company for help. It's on the brink of bankruptcy. Anyway, I had dared to hope, to believe that maybe we could rebuild our relationship. I mustered all my courage to ask if we could spend this special day together. But my fragile hope was crushed when he revealed his true self. At first, he had worn the mask of a loving husband. His kind words and gentle smile had once made me believe he cared.
It was all a lie.
His real plan was to climb the social ladder, dreaming of becoming the husband of a CEO's daughter. My father, the founder and CEO of a construction company, worked from a modest home office. As soon as Tony discovered this, he dismissed my family as insignificant and treated me with disdain. By the time our anniversary came around, he was openly cruel. He left me behind, laughing smugly as he went to celebrate with his mistress, a woman he had truly loved all along. I was devastated, left to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. My journey before Tony. I grew up in a family deeply rooted in the construction business. After graduating from university, I worked as an administrative assistant to help support my parents' company. Though I loved them, I wanted to be independent, so I moved out when my grandmother passed away. Her old house became my new home, and though it was small and aged, it gave me a sense of freedom. It was during this time that I met Tony through a mutual friend. We clicked instantly. It felt like we were perfectly aligned in every way, our values, our dreams, our goals. Before long, we decided to get married and started our life together in my grandmother's house. Those early days were magical. Despite the house's creaky floors and peeling walls, we were happy. We promised to celebrate our wedding anniversary every year, no matter what. It was a vow we made with love and excitement for the future. But that joy didn't last. As time went on, Tony's attitude changed. He grew distant, frustrated with the old house and resentful of my family's modest background. I didn't realize it at first, but his love had faded, replaced by bitterness and ambition. Now I'm left wondering where it all went wrong, staring at the stained walls of the house that once held so much promise. The memory of my conversation with my father lingered as I stepped out the small side door of the house. Just the day before, he had suggested something that left me torn. "Why don't you and Paul build a new house for your life together? Start fresh," he had said, his voice filled with warmth and encouragement. It wasn't that I didn't want to. The idea of a new home for a new life with my husband was appealing. But this house held too many memories of my late grandmother. Every corner, every creak, and every faded wall reminded me of her love and the time we spent together. I couldn't imagine letting it all go. I found myself constantly wavering. Should I focus on building a bright future with my husband or hold on to the cherished memories of the past? The question haunted me, and I couldn't seem to find a clear answer. Unfortunately, Paul's perspective on the matter wasn't nearly as sentimental. Just tear down this shabby house. Isn't your family in the construction business? You can't even handle something like this? He spat out one day, frustration dripping from his words. His tone stung, and his next comment was even worse. You're just some small, inefficient countryside builder. Maybe this creaky house suits a country bumpkin like you. Every time the floor groaned under our feet or the wind rattled the windows, his frustration boiled over. He'd lash out with insults that cut deep. This wasn't the man I had fallen in love with, the cheerful, soft-spoken man who had once looked at me with admiration. When we first met, he had joked about how intimidating it was to date someone whose family owned a business. Yet he loved me for who I was, or so I thought. I remember the day he proposed, his face glowing with nervous excitement. He promised to care for me better than anyone else ever could. I believed him. But everything changed after we got married. The first time he visited my parents' property, his cheerful demeanor cracked. I could see the disappointment in his eyes. My father's office was a modest building tucked behind our home, surrounded by piles of construction materials in the yard. Our family's success was built on hard work, not luxury. But that didn't matter to Paul. He had expected something grand, a mansion with sprawling gardens, maybe even a luxurious corporate office. What he found instead was simplicity, and it didn't sit well with him. After that visit, he always found excuses not to come with me to see my family. When he did speak of them, it was with disdain. I later learned that before we got married, he had bragged to his coworkers about marrying the daughter of a company president. He never seemed to grasp that my family's wealth and status weren't what defined me. Over time, the man I had loved became someone I didn't recognize. The sweet conversations we used to share dwindled to silence. He moved into a separate bedroom, and I found myself alone even when we were in the same house. If you get pregnant by mistake, I'll feel sorry for the child, he sneered one day. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror? His words chipped away at my confidence and my love for him. The insults never stopped. He criticized my family, my appearance, and everything in between. Each cruel remark pushed me further away until I, too, began to resent him. One evening, after a long day at work, I decided to stop by the store on my way home. As I stepped outside, an unexpected rainstorm drenched me to the bone. By the time I reached home, I was shivering and cold, my clothes clinging to my skin. I stood there, dripping water onto the old wooden floor, wondering how my life had reached this point. This house, once filled with warmth and love, now felt like a prison. And the man who had once been my partner had become a stranger, a cruel and distant shadow of the person I thought I knew. I went to the bathroom to take a much-needed shower. The chill from the damp bathroom tiles seeped into my feet, making me shiver. I hesitated. Hadn't I cleaned this place just last night? The thought passed quickly. I was drenched from the rain earlier, and all I wanted was the warm comfort of a hot shower. I stripped off my wet clothes without giving it much thought. However, the moment I stepped inside, an uneasy feeling washed over me. Something felt off, and it wasn't just my imagination. The shower curtain and walls were still damp, and faint water droplets clung to their surfaces. I paused, confused. I had thoroughly cleaned the bathroom the night before, and while I might have forgotten to turn on the exhaust fan, there was no reason for it to remain this humid all the way into the late afternoon. Then there was the smell. A faint trace of shampoo lingered in the air. But it wasn't ours. Pushing aside my unease, I hurried through my shower. Afterward, curiosity got the better of me, and I texted Tony to ask if he had come home during the day. His reply was curt and predictable. Of course not. That should have been the end of it. Tony was supposed to be at work, and it made sense. But my instincts were telling me otherwise. Something didn't add up. As I moved to the laundry area, my eyes caught a glint of something in the gap between the washing machine and the wall. I bent down to pick it up, and my stomach churned. It was Tony's favorite watch. I had seen him leave the house this morning wearing it. How could it have ended up here? My heart sank. With trembling hands, I put on rubber gloves and decided to investigate further. I returned to the bathroom and pulled the drain in the bathtub. That's when I saw it. Long strands of hair. They were tangled and clinging to the drain, and they were unmistakably not mine. The hairs were longer than mine and a different color entirely. Among them, I found tiny decorations, fragments of nail art. I rarely ever got my nails done. My chest tightened as dread began to settle in. I wasn't ready to stop there. Driven by the gnawing suspicion in my gut, I went to Tony's bedroom. He had been sleeping in a separate room for months now, a distance I had accepted as part of our crumbling marriage. The moment I entered, my suspicions turned into certainty. The same long hair was scattered across the bed, and the faint scent I had noticed earlier lingered here too. On the white bedsheets, I spotted smudges of foundation and lipstick. I felt my stomach churn as I tried to suppress the nausea rising within me. I couldn't face Tony directly, not yet. I needed more. That night, after dinner, I avoided him completely. I stayed in my room, trying to steady my nerves. Hours later, I heard him laughing and drinking in the living room. His careless demeanor only fueled my anger. When I finally crept out of my room, I found him dozing on the couch, his phone lying on the floor. He hadn't even bothered to lock it. It was as if he didn't have a single worry in the world. For a moment, I hesitated, but my hands moved on their own, picking up the phone and unlocking it. My heart raced as I scrolled through his messages. And then I saw it. Her name was right there, along with a string of messages that made my blood boil. The playful exchanges, the intimate details, it was all too much. The adulteress was real, and their betrayal was undeniable. I sat there, my mind spinning and my chest heavy with betrayal. The man I had once loved and trusted had brought another woman into my life, into my home. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was certain: my life would never be the same again. From the messages I read, it became clear she was his ex-girlfriend. She came from a wealthy family, the kind of life that seemed untouchable to people like me. Their relationship had ended when she got engaged to another affluent man. She moved on, or so it seemed, but Tony hadn't. He couldn't let go of her. When she began preparing to move into a luxury apartment, a wedding gift from her fiancé's family, Tony reached out to her. The messages painted a picture I didn't want to see. She was struggling to live alone in her new, unfamiliar space since her fiancé wasn't able to move in yet. Tony used that opportunity to insert himself back into her life. And while he sent her cheerful, supportive messages, she wasn't the only one he was trying to impress. To keep up appearances, he boasted that he was about to marry the daughter of a construction company. It was suddenly clear to me. Tony had chosen me not out of love, but because I fit the story he wanted to tell. How pathetic. He had no shame in taking advantage of me, in using my family's name to boost his ego. I had been nothing more than a pawn in his twisted game, and I hadn't even realized it. I felt so foolish, so utterly betrayed. In a wave of anger, I threw his phone onto the floor and ran back to my room. My emotions overwhelmed me, and I couldn't think straight. I didn't want to think at all. All I could do was cry, letting the pain pour out of me until there were no more tears left. I felt like a child, lost and hurt, unable to make sense of anything. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was morning, and I heard the sound of Tony closing the front door as he left for work. I sat up quickly, my swollen eyelids heavy from crying all night. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to calm myself down. My mind raced with questions. What was I supposed to do now? Could our marriage still be saved? I thought back to the beginning, to the Tony I fell in love with, the one who was kind and caring, who made me laugh and promised to protect me. Could all of that have been a lie? I wanted to believe there was still some part of him that cared. After all, he could have divorced me when he realized my family wasn't as wealthy or powerful as he'd imagined. But he didn't. That gave me hope, however small, that maybe there was still a chance for us. Determined to try one last time, I decided to make his favorite stew. It was a dish I always made from scratch, and he'd often praised me for it. I remembered how his face used to light up as he ate it, his smile contagious. Those memories gave me strength as I prepared the meal and waited for him to come home. When Tony walked through the door, he didn't say much, but he sat down and ate the stew with visible enjoyment. I watched him quietly, searching for any sign of the man I once knew. After dinner, I finally spoke up, my voice trembling. "Hey, it's our anniversary this weekend. Do you remember our promise? We said we'd celebrate it every year, no matter what. Why don't we go out together?" I paused, trying to steady my emotions. It's so sad and lonely living like this, not being able to talk to each other. We don't have to do anything special. I just want to be with you. My words hung in the air, heavy with vulnerability. I didn't know if they would reach him, but they came from my heart. I still wanted to believe there was something worth saving, even if it felt like I was reaching out to someone who was already slipping away. I wanted to share the same experiences and have meaningful conversations with him. Gathering all my courage, I told him how I felt. My voice trembled and tears filled my eyes, but I tried to stay strong. I wiped my tears and looked into his face, hoping he would understand and take me seriously. Instead, his response shattered me. "Oh, you're disgusting," he sneered. "A reclusive pig suddenly wants to be with me on our anniversary? What makes you think you deserve to be celebrated? Anniversaries are only meaningful when there are real feelings involved. Otherwise, it's just another day, nothing special. There's no anniversary between us at all. I don't even remember those stupid promises you keep talking about. Stop saying weird things, it's nauseating." His glare was cold and full of disgust, as if he was looking at trash. Then he stormed out, using the excuse of going to buy beers. I retreated to my room, broken and devastated, and cried my heart out once again. Later that night, I found him sprawled carelessly in the living room, drinking as if nothing had happened. I couldn't help but wonder if he enjoyed humiliating me and mocking me in his mind. Curiosity and pain drove me to check his phone. What I found crushed any remaining hope. He had made a reservation for a fancy dinner, not with me, but with his mistress, on the very day of our anniversary. It seemed that day was also the anniversary of their relationship. The truth hit me like a tidal wave. Our marriage was a mistake from the beginning. He had never loved me. To him, I was just a tool, someone he used to maintain a certain image or lifestyle. My value to him was never about love or partnership, only convenience. I crumbled to the floor where he lay sleeping peacefully, completely unaffected. I couldn't cry anymore. My body trembled, empty of tears and filled with despair. The next morning, he dropped another blow. "I'm leaving next week for a month on a business trip," he said casually. "You should look into some short-term apartments for me. Your family's in the construction business, so you can probably get some good connections for properties, right? Or maybe a business that's practically bankrupt doesn't have that kind of pull." His sarcasm stung, but I didn't even flinch. I had no energy left to be upset or argue. As November approached, he remained the same cruel and indifferent person. After throwing out his cutting remarks, he left for work, leaving me alone with the weight of everything he'd done. I already knew his business trip was just a lie. He was using it as an excuse to spend time with his mistress before she got married. Checking his phone had become a habit for me. I hated myself for doing it. It felt wrong and disgusting. But at the same time, it gave me information I couldn't ignore. "Have a good trip. Good luck," I said to him with a cheerful smile, pretending I didn't know anything. The following week, as soon as he left the house, I made a phone call. "Hello, yes. Please go ahead and start today," I said. After that, I rushed to my room to get ready. I had been waiting for this moment for so long. My heart raced with excitement as I quickly left the house, feeling lighter than I had in months. A month later, while I was at work, my phone rang repeatedly. At first, I ignored it because I was busy. But the calls kept coming, buzzing nonstop, and it became impossible to focus. Finally, I stepped outside to answer it. "Yes, hello? What's going on?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. On the other end of the line was Tony, and he was furious. "What the hell did you do?" "I came back and the house is gone."
Gone.
"The land is even for sale. Explain yourself." His voice was so loud, I didn't even need to put the phone on speaker to hear him yelling. "Oh, you told me to get rid of the house as soon as possible," I replied calmly. "So I asked my father to help. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Why are you so upset?" I could barely hold back my laughter as I imagined him pacing, panicked and angry. "Don't mess with me," he screamed. "There's no way a small business like your family's could do something like this in just 1 month. And the sales sign? It has the name of a major company on it, not some tiny, unknown business. Who's behind this? Don't try to fool me." I smiled to myself, my tone still calm. "I told you I took care of it. You looked at my family's house and assumed our business was small and insignificant. Did you ever bother to do any real research about my family's companies?" I left the question hanging, letting him stew in his realization. I never told him our company was huge, but I also never said it was just a small family business. It seemed like a light bulb went off in his head because I heard him fumbling with his phone, probably searching for information about the company listed on the sale sign. Moments later, he went silent. I could only imagine his shock when he saw the company website, which clearly displayed a photo of my father as the CEO. "Yes, we're a construction company," I explained calmly, "but we handle more than just home construction. We also take on demolition and other building-related projects. Lately, inflation has slowed things down a bit, so my father and his team were happy to help me out with this. The demolition only took a week, and the land sold at a pretty good price. I saw it as a final Christmas gift from my grandmother. I've been thinking about this for a while, and in the end, it helped me make the decision. I'm grateful." Tony was still completely silent, probably in shock. I imagined his face pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, unable to process what had happened. Suddenly, he snapped back. "Don't tell me you threw away all my stuff. My computer, my work files. Do you even know what you've done?" His voice was shaky, almost like he was on the verge of tears. "Of course not," I replied cheerfully. "I'm not that cruel. My things went to my parents' house, and your stuff was sent to the right place. Consider it an early Christmas gift from me to you. Oh, and by the way, the boxes should arrive today. I even wrote your name as the sender and included the correct address. I figured someone might ask about them, so I'm sure you'll have a chance to explain everything and sort it out." There was a long pause on the other end. "Where the hell did you send them?" he finally asked, his voice trembling. But before I could respond, it became clear he had already figured it out. To my satisfaction, and his horror, the recipient of those packages had shown up. "Can you explain what's going on here?" a deep, unfamiliar voice demanded in the background. That voice belonged to the fiancé of Tony's mistress. I had sent Tony's belongings to their shared condo, having already confirmed the address from the messages I found on his phone. I had also taken photos of Tony and his mistress together at the hotel and their condo. I sent those photos along with the boxes. To make sure the truth was clear, I sent the pictures to her fiancé's family as well. They were well known in the community. On the other end of the phone, Tony and his mistress began arguing, blaming each other for the mess they were in. The fiancé, who witnessed everything, was furious. Their engagement was called off immediately, and it seemed likely they were heading for a court battle. When Tony finally realized he was still on the phone with me, he exploded with rage. "You've ruined my life. I'll destroy yours too. You'll regret this for the rest of your life," he shouted. "You're worthless, and you deserve everything that's happening to you. I'll never forgive you." But his threats didn't scare me. I calmly hung up the phone. Right after that, I called his workplace. While checking his phone earlier, I had found evidence of his wrongdoings at work, and I wasn't going to let that slide. Next, I called his parents and told them everything about his affair and betrayal. At first, I had hesitated to take things this far. If Tony had shown even the smallest sign of regret or apologized sincerely, I might have held back. But after everything he said and did, I had no reason to. That day, Tony was fired from his job. His parents, outraged and ashamed, disowned him. Within hours, he lost everything: his job, his home, his wife, and even his family. I was certain he couldn't stay in town after that. Not long after, we finalized our divorce. I made sure to negotiate a large sum of alimony from him. As for his mistress, her life fell apart too. Her fiancé filed a lawsuit against her for swindling him, and she was ordered to pay a massive compensation. She and Tony had embarrassed the fiancé's wealthy family, and the cost of their actions was far more than anything someone like me could ever imagine. Tony and his mistress, now without a place in each other's lives, supposedly moved into a cheap apartment somewhere. Tony's career was ruined, and her privileged life was gone. Together, they were just three people trying to scrape by, burdened by debt and regret. Rumors spread that they argued every day, barely getting by, their relationship crumbling under the weight of their choices. As for me, I used the money from selling the land to buy a new house. I chose to live a modest life without relying on my parents' help. I focused on living each day to the fullest, determined to move forward. Looking back, my failed marriage taught me an important lesson. I wasn't the best judge of character. I let myself get swept up in passion and ignored the signs that showed Tony's true nature. But now, I've learned to trust myself and take my time before making big decisions. I'm stronger, wiser, and more at peace than I've ever been. I've thought a lot about my naive past. Yes, I was hurt, but I won't let this experience go to waste. I've decided to use it as a lesson to grow and become a better person. I want to learn how to truly understand people and become more confident in myself. I've set a big goal for my future and made a wish as I watch the sunrise. This is the beginning of a new chapter for me.